How long have you been following me? Leo asked, his eyes narrowed on Isabelle. His voice was flat, betraying no emotion. He'd noticed someone tailing him the moment he'd reached the second floor. Keeping an ear out, he'd eventually realized it was his little neighbor. That's when he deliberately led her down this deserted hallway, wanting to see what she was up to. To make sure she didn't bolt, he stretched an arm out, planting his hand on the wall beside her head. The pose felt like something straight out of a cheesy teen drama, the punk kid pinning the Ice Queen genius against the lockers. Isabelle tilted her head back, staring up at him, her eyes wide with a mixture of bewilderment and anxiety. I, she stammered, the words catching in her throat. She just kept her gaze locked on his, trying to read in his eyes whether or not he was about to abandon her. But as she looked, Haley's words from earlier echoed in her mind, and her vision started to blur. She bit her lower lip and looked down, desperate to hide the tears welling in her eyes. The sight of her like this shattered Leo's stern act in an instant. "What's wrong?" he asked, his voice filled with concern. His question was the final crack in the dam. A single tear escaped and fell to the floor. Still, she kept her head down, her voice stubborn. "Nothing. Why are you here? This is an administration building. I'm here to take care of something, obviously." She didn't look up. "Then why didn't you text me? And you never dress up like this when we go out. Are you here to meet another girl?" "What?" Leo was floored, utterly floored. Seeing her cry had already sent him into a low-grade panic, but this accusation left him reeling. It took him a second to connect the dots. Oh, he must have been rushing over here after class, and she must have seen him. Add in the fact that he was a little more dressed up than usual and hadn't told her where he was going, and her imagination had filled in the blanks. Figuring it all out, Leo cleared his throat and rushed to explain. "You've got it all wrong. I had just gotten back to the dorm when my advisor called. He told me to come to the dean's office. The university TV station did a piece on Starfall Media, and the dean wants to talk about it. As for dressing up, my advisor said there might be a campus interview afterward. It's for the school paper representing the School of Business, so he told me to look presentable. I didn't tell you because it was last minute. I was going to text you when I got here, but then you followed me and cooked up this whole secret rendezvous scenario." He couldn't help it. He let out a snort of laughter. Hearing his explanation, Isabelle finally realized she'd completely misunderstood. Now, with him laughing at her, a deep blush crept up her neck. She snapped her head up, her face flushed as she shot back. "What are you laughing at?" "Nothing. It's just, you're kind of cute. Can you imagine what those guys from high school would think if they saw the great Isabelle Thornton, the campus ice queen, crying over something she made up in her own head? Their jaws would hit the floor. The blush deepened, spreading from her face to her ears and all the way down her neck. The thought of him seeing her cry made her want to sink through the floor. It was social suicide. She also realized she wasn't as calm and collected as she used to be. When it came to Leo, her first instinct was always to panic. That's why Haley's innocent joke had sent her spiraling. Seeing her silent, Leo grinned. "You have a class right now, don't you? You skipped class just to follow me and see if I was meeting another girl." Isabelle pressed her lips together. I didn't skip," she mumbled. "Haley is covering for me." "Same difference." "Well, since you're here, you might as well come meet the girl I'm having a secret meeting with." Isabelle knew he meant the dean's office. She shook her head immediately. "No, I'm not going. I need to get back to class." "Don't be so sure. What if I was lying just now? What if I really am meeting someone?" Isabelle stared at him as his expression turned serious again. She was stumped. After a moment, she pouted, forcing a cool tone. "Fine. I suppose I can humor you and tag along." "Great. The esteemed Miss Thornton will humor me," Leo said, fighting back another laugh. Inwardly, though, he was marveling at the change in her. This was a completely different Isabelle from the one who had first moved into the Maplewood. Now, she was just like any other girl in love, capable of being brought to tears by a simple misunderstanding. Meanwhile, in New York City, in the VIP suite of a private maternity center, Sharon Thornton finished reading the document in her hand, a smile of unprecedented satisfaction spreading across her face. She called out for Jonathan. A moment later, the door opened and he stepped inside. "Ma'am, you called for me." "Yes. Take these files. Do exactly as I instructed before and deliver each one to its intended recipient." Jonathan took the stack of files from her. A glance at the cover sheets made the color drain from his face. He hesitated. "Mom, you're still recovering. Perhaps we should wait." "No more waiting. I've made too many moves already. The trail is there for anyone to find. Besides, Richard Thornton is no fool. He's probably been taking countermeasures for days. If we strike now, he won't be able to react in time, no matter how fast he is." Jonathan paused, then nodded grimly. I understand, ma'am. I'll see to it immediately. Please, please take care of yourself. I may not be able to be by your side for a little while. It's fine. Go. After Jonathan left with the files, Sharon stared out the window. The ambition she had kept hidden for so long was now written plainly on her face. The Thornton family's Thornton Industries, she murmured with a soft, sharp laugh. Not for much longer. From now on, it's Sharon's Industries. When they reached the dean's office, Isabelle refused to go inside. The dean asked to see you specifically, she argued. She didn't even ask for anyone else from your company, let alone me. I'm not an employee. I'm just your girlfriend. I have no reason to be in there. I'd be a total outsider. But I don't know how long this will take, Leo countered. If you wait in the hall, you'll freeze. There's no heating out here. Isabelle pressed her lips together, her voice a mix of compliance and cool resolve. I'll just wait for a little while. If I get cold and you're not out yet, I'll go back to the dorm. Leo held his breath. She was being so considerate it was heartbreaking. He couldn't help but think of all the times, years ago, her father must have told her to wait in his office while he finished up work. He imagined a little girl waiting and waiting for hours. He refused to let her relive that feeling. He reached out and ruffled her hair gently. Haley and the others are in class. You just be alone in the dorm. It will be just as cold and empty. I'm taking you in. I'll explain it to the dean. You could just sit quietly. It'll be fine. But no but. Trust me. With that, Leo took her hand and knocked on the office door. Isabelle looked at his profile, her expression dazed. When she snapped back to reality, her eyes shimmered. The feeling of being someone's absolute priority bloomed in her chest, warm and overwhelming. She squeezed his hand back. What was I so worried about? She thought, Leo would never lose me. He won't. Knock, knock, knock. Come in. A crisp, female voice answered from inside. It wasn't loud, but it carried an unmistakable air of authority. Leo frowned. Huh. I thought the dean of the School of Business was a man. I saw him at that meeting last semester. He chalked it up to a secretary or an assistant and pushed the door open. Inside, a middle-aged woman sat behind a large desk, writing intently. Her hair was pulled back in a severe bun without a single stray wisp, and she wore a sharp business suit. After a long moment, she put down her pen and looked up. Her gaze was as sharp as a scalpel, landing on Leo with an unnerving, impersonal intensity, as if she were appraising an object. Even though Leo had faced down investors worth tens, even hundreds of millions, this woman's stare made him feel like a child standing before a formidable family matriarch. So, this woman really is the dean? Then who was the guy from the meeting? As the question crossed his mind, he spotted the nameplate on her desk. Janet Wong, Dean, School of Businesses. So the other guy was the associate dean. She's the real deal. He opened his mouth to greet her, but before he could speak, Dean Wong's gaze shifted from him to the girl whose hand he was holding. The moment she saw Isabelle's face, the dean's stern expression dissolved. Her eyes widened. She shot up from her chair, her fountain pen clattering onto the polished wood of the desk, where it bled a dark blue stain across a document. Leaning on the desk for support, she rushed around to Isabelle, her voice trembling as she gripped Isabelle's shoulders. You are. The sudden movement startled Isabelle, who instinctively shrank back behind Leo. That small gesture made Dean Wong's pupils contract again, as if she were seeing a ghost. The ghost of a tall, shy girl who used to follow her everywhere. It was as if she had stepped through time and was standing right in front of her. Finally, Dean Wong pressed a hand to her mouth, the veins on the back of her well-manicured hand standing out as she fought to keep a name from bursting from her lips. Leo was completely lost. Thinking the dean had mistaken him, he whispered, Dean Wong, I'm Leo Yeager. I know, she snapped, her eyes never leaving Isabelle. That's when Leo noticed it. He shifted slightly and saw that behind her gold-rimmed glasses, the powerful woman's eyes were glistening with unshed tears. Dean Wong reached out a trembling hand and cupped Isabelle's cheek. She was smiling and crying at the same time. My dear, she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. Your mother, Catherine Liu, is she well? At the mention of her mother's name, Leo felt the hand he was holding give a sharp jolt. Isabelle's confused expression morphed into one of shock. She frowned, looking at the strange woman. You knew my mother? How did you know I'm Catherine Liu's daughter? A tearful smile broke through the dean's grief. Knew her? We were more than just acquaintances. If I hadn't moved abroad all those years ago, you'd be calling me your godmother right now. You look so much like her, especially your eyes. You're the spitting image of Catherine when she was young. Her daughter, through and through, and just as beautiful. Is your mother still in Crestview? I lost touch with her after I moved. Something happened. I've been trying to find her for years since I came back. To think I'd meet her daughter here. Perhaps fate didn't want our story to end just yet. Tell me, hasn't she ever shown you a picture of me? I'm sure she missed me as much as I missed her. Isabelle's expression clouded over. She pressed her lips together and replied softly, I'm sorry, ma'am. My mother passed away when I was very little. She never got the chance to tell me about you. The words hit Dean Wong like a physical blow. She staggered back, bumping into a bookshelf, sending a row of financial yearbooks rattling. She stared at Isabelle in disbelief, her voice a fragile whisper. Passed away? You're saying your mother, Catherine Liu, has been gone since you were a child? Dean Wong's lips trembled, her mind refusing to accept the brutal truth. How is that possible? She murmured to herself. Catherine, how could she be? She looked at Isabelle, her eyes red-rimmed. How did she pass away? It was brain cancer, Isabelle said, her voice eerily calm. But Leo could feel the pain radiating from her, the old wound torn open once again. Even after all these years, the loss of her mother was a scar that had never truly healed. Dean Wong's questions had brought all that grief rushing back to the surface. Leo squeezed her hand, a silent message of support. A wave of sorrow washed over the dean's face. She closed her eyes, fighting for composure. When she opened them again, they were filled with a profound, aching sympathy. Catherine was such a perfect woman. How could you be taken so young? Child, what is your name? Isabelle Thornton. Dean Wong nodded, whispering the name as if tasting it. Isabelle. Beautiful. Like a promise of spring on a winter's night. A lovely name. She paused. And your father's name? Richard Thornton. The dean's brow furrowed instantly, her tone turning icy. Richard Thornton? As in, the chairman of Thornton Industries? Isabelle gave a slight nod. TSK. Dean Wong clicked her tongue in disgust. How did Catherine end up with a man like that? Everyone knows the chairman of Thornton Industries remarried a woman a dozen years his junior not long after his first wife passed away. To think that man was Catherine's husband. She caught herself, realizing Isabelle was still standing right there, and her expression turned awkward. But Isabelle just shook her head. It's all right, ma'am. You're not wrong to say that about my father. It's what he did. Dean Wong stared at her for a moment, then nodded. Her attention finally shifted to Leo, whom she had all but ignored until now. Her eyes flicked down to their clasped hands. And you too. Are you dating? The moment Leo had realized the dean was practically Isabelle's godmother, he'd started to feel awkward. In a way, this was the first time he was officially meeting the family. Yes, Dean. You asked me to come talk. I was on my own, but a little situation came up, so I brought her with me. I was going to ask if you minded, and if so, I don't mind. Please, both of you sit. Dean Wong waved a hand, her expression shifting again as she scrutinized Leo. It was the classic look of a mother sizing up her daughter's boyfriend. The intensity of it made Leo squirm in his seat, his face burning. After a long moment, her gaze returned to normal. Leo, she began, I've done a fair bit of research on your Starfall Studios, now officially Starfall Media, and your pivot to a full MCN agency. The fact that a group of college students has built a studio to this scale is astounding. It's hard to believe a company of this size is a student startup, less than a year old. She continued. At this point, the university can't offer you much more help. But as I understand it, Starfall's first office was an empty classroom Sean Xiao requested from school, and you also applied for the Student Entrepreneurship Fund. So despite its size, Starfall is still officially a CPI-affiliated project. Leo frowned. Dean, are you saying you want to limit Starfall's growth? Keep it tied to the campus. Don't be so hasty, young man. I haven't finished, she said with a hint of impatience. The university has no intention of limiting your growth. In fact, we want to help you stabilize and expand. All we ask is that in the future, your company's partners mention our school when appropriate. You run a company. You know that having a well-funded backer can help you attract top talent. For the university, it's the same principle. Having a success story like yours as an endorsement will attract top-tier students from all over the country next year, increasing our future pool of high-achieving alumni. Leo understood. He was in the School of Business. If Starfall's success brought in a wave of top applicants, it would be a major feather in Dean Wong's cap. But could Starfall really have that kind of influence? It seemed like a stretch. He voiced his doubts. Dean Wong pushed up her gold-rimmed glasses. A promotional push from you now might not have a huge immediate effect, but in the long run, it absolutely will. And the benefits to the school are more than just what I've mentioned. For example, you've heard of Chatter Tea, the hottest beverage brand in the country right now, correct? Its founder, P14.She, graduated from Channing University. He started the company when he was a freshman just like you. In the last 2 years, as Chatter Tea has exploded in popularity, Channing has been promoting his story relentlessly. It's attracted countless students with test scores far exceeding their requirements, boosted the university's prestige, and even improved their graduate employment rates. Hearing P14.She's name again, Leo felt a complex wave of emotion. Just a few months ago, he had met the man in that small village in the Ozarks. Back then, he wouldn't have dreamed of being mentioned in the same breath. Now, the dean of CPI School of Business was comparing him to P14.She. He and Dean Wong continued their discussion, diving into the details of Starfall's future and potential university collaborations. Isabelle sat quietly beside him the entire time. Watching Leo talk with the dean, his confidence and composure unwavering, her eyes filled with an unconcealable admiration and love. Finally, the discussion wound down. Leo and Dean Wong both smiled. "Dean," Leo said, "with this level of support from the university, I'm confident that Starfall's every step forward will be even more solid than before." The dean's stern, professional demeanor melted away, replaced by the warm, proud expression of an elder looking at a favored young protege. "Excellent. Very composed. Izzy has good taste in boyfriends." She then gestured towards the door. "Go on down to room 307. The campus interview team is waiting for you there. They're going to do a short feature to promote student entrepreneurship." She paused, then turned to Isabelle with a look of pure affection. "Izzy, you stay here and talk with me for a while." Isabelle pursed her lips. It was rare for her to feel such an immediate sense of comfort and kinship with someone, but she felt it with Dean Wong. Perhaps it was knowing she was one of her mother's dearest friends. She nodded, a small, soft smile gracing her lips. "Okay, a storm is coming for Thornton Industries. Grab your popcorn, everyone. Isabelle, time for the hunt." Before leaving, Leo picked up Dean Wong's mug from her desk and refilled it with hot water from the kettle. Then he closed the door softly behind him. He suspected Isabelle and the dean would have a wonderful conversation. It was a rare chance for her to learn about her mother's past. He headed down to room 307 as instructed. According to the dean, it was a dedicated studio for the journalism department's campus interviews. Most of CPI's features were filmed there. When he arrived, the room was already bustling with 7 or 8 people setting up cameras and lighting equipment. The space had been arranged to look like a professional interview set, something you'd see on a talk show. To his surprise, he spotted 2 familiar faces, Nina Wei and the student government vice president, Evan Yu. Seeing those 2 clowns was the last thing he expected. As far as he knew, neither of them were journalism majors or involved with campus media. What were they doing here? Before he could figure out, a guy standing by the door saw him and walked over with a smile. "You must be Leo Yeager, right?" Yeah, that's me." "Great, come on in. Dean Wong already filled me in. Our professor was supposed to conduct your interview today, but she got called into a last-minute meeting, so our senior is handling it." The guy turned and called out to a girl sitting on a stool, looking over some notes. "Jocelyn, Leo's here." At his words, the noisy studio fell silent. Everyone stopped what they were doing and turned to look at him. The sudden attention made Leo feel a little awkward. He subconsciously rubbed his nose and cleared his throat. The girl they called Jocelyn looked up. She had a cascade of smooth, dark hair that perfectly framed her soft, oval face. A straight, high-bridged nose sat above lips that were naturally pink, curved into a friendly smile. She was dressed like a professional host in a simple white blouse and a navy A-line skirt, her legs clad in dark, opaque tights, looking flawless. The first word that popped into Leo's head was poised. While she wasn't as stunning as Isabelle, he'd never seen someone with such a commanding, cool older sister vibe. He couldn't help but look twice. The girl put her notes down, uncrossed her legs, and stood up, walking over to him. She offered a polite smile and extended her hand. "Hi, Leo. I'm Jocelyn Xiao. I'm a senior in the broadcasting program. I'll be handling your interview today." "Hi, Jocelyn. Nice to meet you," Leo replied, shaking her hand. Jocelyn nodded and had the other guy hand Leo a document. "This is an outline of the questions I'll be asking. You can look it over. If there's anything you're not comfortable answering, just let me know. We also prepared some sample answers for you to reference, just in case. We know that some people who are great at business aren't always as comfortable with public speaking." She smiled warmly again. "But I saw your interview with the Crestview local news the other day, Leo. You're great on your feet and very well spoken. I doubt you'll need the templates." "You're too kind," Leo said humbly, taking the papers and starting to read. Jocelyn turned to direct the crew, getting the lighting and cameras into their final positions. As Leo focused on the questions, a faint, pleasant scent of perfume drifted over to him. He looked up. Nina Wei was standing in front of him. She had her hands behind her back, a cheerful smile on her face. Leo, long time no see. Leo stared at her, a complicated expression on his face. He didn't know what to say. He clearly remembered their last encounter at the Pinnacle, at that student government dinner Chris Shing had invited him to. Nina had been all over him that night, and he and Isabelle had shut her down completely. How did this girl have the nerve to just walk up and talk to him like nothing had happened? If it were him, he'd want to become invisible. He was so thrown off that he could only manage a strained smile after a few seconds. Haha. Yeah, it has been a while. Nina seemed to read his mind. She let out a little laugh, covering her mouth as she spoke. You're wondering how I can stand here talking to you after you and your girlfriend embarrassed me so thoroughly at that dinner, aren't you? Leo didn't answer. Nina giggled. I knew you'd be thinking that. To be honest, I was mortified that night. I decided I would avoid you and your girlfriend at all costs. But after I calmed down, I thought about it. You actually tried to warn me several times, but I was too confident, too sure I could get your attention. I only have myself to blame. I'm over it now. You're one of the few guys my age that I actually admire, and I don't want to miss the chance to know you because of something so silly. So, if you can't be my boyfriend, can you at least be my idol? Leo's eyes widened, his jaw dropping. Is this for real? If you don't say anything, I'll take that as a yes. From now on, you're my hero. Feeling a wave of secondhand embarrassment, Leo quickly changed the subject. Ahem, you're not part of the campus interview team, are you? What are you doing here? Oh, curious about that, hero? I'm one of the few female entrepreneurs on campus. Evan knows Jocelyn, so he helped me get a spot for an interview. It'll be good publicity for my startup. Oh, Leo glanced over at Evan, who was standing near the editing station. He couldn't help but feel a strange mix of pity and disbelief. That guy was relentless. Nina had been crystal clear that it was never going to happen, yet here he was, still chasing after her. Dude, the girl you're simping for just called another guy her hero right in front of you. Leo turned his attention back to the interview outline, ignoring Nina completely. So, Leo, if you're ready, shall we begin? Yeah. Leo nodded at Jocelyn, but he could feel a nervous flutter in his stomach. He'd been interviewed by a professional TV reporter just a few days ago, but that had been spontaneous. This time, he'd had time to prepare, and the anticipation was making him anxious. Jocelyn seemed to sense his unease. She gave him a reassuring smile. No need to be so nervous, Leo. It's just a simple campus interview. Compared to the big-shot investors and partners you deal with every day, I'm sure I'm a lot less intimidating, right? Her emotional intelligence was off the charts. With one simple sentence, she'd managed to defuse his tension. It was no wonder she was still on campus as a senior. Leo guessed she'd already been headhunted by a major media company, probably on the recommendation of a well-connected professor. Thanks, Jocelyn. I'm not that nervous. Let's start. Okay. Jocelyn gave a subtle nod to the crew, and the cameraman started rolling. Leo, it's incredible that as a freshman, you and a few upperclassmen managed to build an MCN agency like Starfall Media in just a few short months. Can you share with us what first inspired you to jump into this field? Jocelyn's voice had shifted, becoming smoother and more professional, the hallmark of a broadcasting major. Leo took a deep breath. Honestly, at the beginning, I was just trying to make some spending money. I never thought it would turn into a real business. It all started when I saw a post on the school subreddit, and he spoke eloquently, trying to make his answers sound as unscripted as possible. Of course, it was all a fabrication. The real reason he'd started the business was to close the gap between himself and Isabelle. But no one, aside from his closest friends, would ever know that. Off camera, Nina Wei watched him, her eyes sparkling with admiration. Beside her, Evan Yu's expression was positively sour. Just trying to make some spending money, Evan muttered under his breath. Right, I bet you're not interested in money at all. What a poser. Nina heard him and her brow furrowed in annoyance. Evan, do you get physically ill seeing someone else succeed? Why are you acting like a bitter old woman? It's pathetic. No, Nina, let me explain, I was just... Evan stammered, his heart sinking. Damn it. If he had known Leo the show-off was going to be here today, he would have rescheduled Nina's interview for another time. After the interview, Jocelyn asked for Leo's contact info, explaining that she needed to send him the final cut of the video for his approval. Leo then said his goodbyes and headed back upstairs to the dean's office to get Isabelle. He was surprised to see her already standing in the hallway. Hey, you done talking with the dean? He asked. He'd figured Dean Wong would want to talk for hours with the daughter of her long-lost friend. Isabelle didn't answer right away. She marched over to him, a pout on her lips, and looped her arm through his. Only then did she speak. Dean Wong had to get back to work. She added me on iMessage and said she'd invite me over to her house for dinner soon. Makes sense. She's the dean, And with the semester just starting, she must be swamped. Leo nodded, about to ask what she wanted for lunch. It was already that time. But before he could, Isabelle said unhappily, Dean Wong is a bad person. The interview she set up for you had 5 girls in it. And you just exchanged numbers with the prettiest one. I'm not going to her house for dinner anymore. Leo blinked, glancing back into the studio. He did a quick head count, including Nina and Evan. There were 8 people. And sure enough, 5 of them were women. He also realized that Isabelle must have seen him give Jocelyn his number. He scratched his nose awkwardly. Hey, don't blame the dean. It's a campus media interview. Most of the students are from the journalism and broadcasting departments. Those are liberal arts majors. Of course there are going to be more girls. I don't blame Dean Wong. I blame you. You added another girl's number. Isabelle's tone suddenly became frosty. Without a word, Leo pulled out his phone and right in front of her, decisively deleted Jocelyn's contact. He then wrapped his arm around her waist. There. Deleted. Now, tell me, what do you want for lunch? Isabelle's mouth fell open in surprise. A moment later, she said in a flustered voice, I was just kidding. I know you added her for work. You didn't have to actually delete it. It's fine. It was just to approve the final video. I don't need to see it. Your boyfriend is handsome enough to survive a bad edit. Now stop worrying about it and think about food. Isabelle looked up at him, her eyes shining. This was what it felt like to be chosen. She pressed her lips together to hide a smile, then said in a bright, happy voice, I want dumplings today. Dumplings it is, Leo said, but go easy on the vinegar. I think someone's already had her fill of sour grapes standing out here in the hall. I have not. I didn't say you did. Why so defensive? Guilty conscience. Well, next time you're not so nice to me. Maybe you can punish me. The second half of the semester kicked off at the end of February. A gentle breeze, soft as silk, swept away the last of winter's chill, carrying the fresh, playful scent of spring. The campus cats, who had been scarce during the cold months, finally reemerged. They could be seen lounging in patches of sunlight on the quad, and whenever a young couple passed by, they trot over to rub against the girls' legs, earning them a reward of sausage, stick, or some dried fish. Leo, who had been making regular trips with Isabelle to their makeout spot in the Grove, had taken to keeping a few churu sticks in his pocket. After their usual discussions, Isabelle was always a sucker for the campus cats, and she'd spend a good 10 minutes petting them. Leo would offer up the treats to keep the cats around a little longer, just to see her smile. It was the last Friday in February. After his morning class, Leo found himself with a rare pocket of free time. No work, no meetings. He texted Isabelle, suggesting they take a drive to Prospect Point. He'd heard from Kevin that the old wishing, well, there was supposedly good luck for couples. Can we go tomorrow? She texted back. Dean Wong invited me to her house for dinner tonight. She wants to chat and show me some old photos of her and my mom. Leo wasn't discouraged. Dinner's not until tonight. We can go to Prospect Point this afternoon, and then I can drop you off at her place. A smirking emoji appeared on his screen. New season, new clothes. Haley and Zoe are dragging me to the mall this afternoon. We made plans during class. Leo sighed. It was clear a date wasn't happening today. Okay, tomorrow then, he replied. He tossed his phone aside and lay back on his bed, staring at the ceiling. Since the rebranding, Starfall Media had been running smoothly. Aside from the occasional business meeting or long-term strategy session, there wasn't much that required his direct attention. And now, on a free afternoon with no classes and no work, the one person he wanted to spend time with was booked solid. Suddenly, Leo fell adrift. Just then, Rex, Ned, and Felix returned from hanging their blankets out to dry on the communal lines. Seeing Leo staring blankly at the ceiling, Rex asked, Leo, you not going to air out your blanket? The sun's amazing today. They've been stuffed in here all break. A good sunning will make them feel great tonight. Ned nodded in agreement. Yeah, Leo, go hang it up. There's still room. I love the feeling of sleeping under a sun-baked blanket. You can even smell the sunshine on it. Leo smirked. That's not sunshine you're smelling, Ned. That's the smell of fried dust mites. Ned froze, his expression falling. Leo had planned to take his own blanket down, but he'd figured he'd do it when he went to pick up Isabelle from her dorm. Now that she'd been hijacked by her roommates, his plans were shot. Rex spoke up again. No class this afternoon. You guys want to go play airsoft? There's a new place that opened up last week on the north side of town. I heard the owner bought a whole abandoned logistics park. The field is supposed to be huge. I'm in. Got nothing else to do. Sounds good to me. Rex and the others were all in. They turned their collective gaze to Leo. They knew his schedule was usually packed with either work or Isabelle. But this time, to their surprise, he agreed. Let's do it. Rex's eyes widened. Whoa, did hell freeze over? You don't have work, and you don't have to hang out with Izzy. Company's quiet lately, and my little neighbor is out shopping with her roommates. Leo shot Rex a look. What? You're not happy your godfather is gracing you with his presence? Rex sighed dramatically. Speaking of which, I've been meaning to talk to you. Ever since that campus interview of yours started playing on the cafeteria TVs and got posted online, everyone knows those viral TikTok accounts are yours. My DMs have been blowing up. It's all girls, man. Girls are stopping me on the quad, offering to buy me drinks just to get your number. He shook his head, annoyed. Seriously, are girls this pragmatic now? You start one little company, and suddenly you're a celebrity? You're not the only entrepreneur on campus, you know? Ugh, I used to wish girls would add me. Now I've got dozens, and I'm not even happy about it. Before Leo could respond, Felix chimed in. Yeah, same for me and Ned. A lot of people have been asking us for your contact info since they found out we're your roommates. I think it's not just the business, Leo. It's because you're also kind of handsome, rich, and good-looking. Who wouldn't be into that? Leo was genuinely surprised. He had no idea this was happening. Are you serious? Then how come I haven't gotten a single friend request? Rex rolled his eyes. Duh. We all know you have a gorgeous, crazy rich girlfriend. No offense, but while some of the girls asking are pretty, they're not even in the same league as Isabelle. Besides, what if you had a moment of weakness and started texting some other girl? If Isabelle found out we're the ones who leaked your number, she'd hire a hitman to take us out. Leo just smiled, clapping each of them on the shoulder. They might tease him constantly, but when it mattered, they had his back. All right, thank you, my loyal knights, for protecting me from the hordes. For that, Airsoft is on me today. With a grand gesture, Leo grabbed his keys, and the four of them piled into his car, heading for the northern outskirts of Crestview. And because he wasn't at the office, he missed his daily ritual of checking the news. He missed the biggest story of the year. Leo drove the guys from dorm 415 to the new airsoft field on the north side of town. Just as Rex had said, the owner had converted an entire abandoned logistics park into a playing field. Rex stared, dumbfounded. This owner is a legend, he breathed. I'm guessing this place is at least 200 acres. It would take half an hour just to run from one end to the other. Insane. More than that, Leo said, eyeing the sprawling complex. It's probably over 300. I bet he's leasing. If he bought this much land just for an airsoft field, he'd go broke in a month. Who cares? We gotta have fun. It's only $200 a person. Total bargain. Leo just smiled, spotting a public restroom across the street. He pulled out his phone and Venmo'd Rex $1,000. You guys go get the tickets. I need to use the restroom. I'll be right over. You're paying. You're the boss, Rex muttered, accepting the transfer. Leo headed across the street. Before going into the restroom, he snapped a quick picture and sent it to Isabelle, letting her know he was playing airsoft with the guys. She didn't reply, but he didn't think anything of it. He knew she was busy shopping. In an age of constant connectivity, shopping was one of the few activities that could make a girl ignore her phone for hours on end. After washing his hands, Leo stepped out of the restroom, shaking the water from his fingers. Suddenly, a hand gripped his arm. A voice, sharp and raspy like an old wooden door creaking in the wind, whispered in his ear. Tell your fortune, young man. Leo turned to see an old woman, at least 70, standing behind him. She was severely hunched, her spine bent like an old tree branch. Her silver hair was thin and messy, flying around her head in the breeze. Her face was a roadmap of wrinkles, like cracks in dry earth, and her eyes, sunk deep in their sockets, were cloudy and unfocused. It was still only February, and the wind had a bite to it, yet she was wearing nothing but a faded blue tunic and a pair of thin trousers, the cuffs rolled up to reveal bony, veiny ankles. Everything about her felt wrong, unsettling. If it weren't broad daylight, Leo would have sworn he'd stumbled into a horror movie. She looked like something straight out of an urban legend. He stared for a few seconds before managing a weak smile. No, thank you, Ma. He tried to pull his arm away, but the old woman's grip tightened. To his shock, he felt a twinge of pain. How could a woman this old be so strong? She squinted her cloudy eyes at him, her raspy voice continuing, Don't be in such a hurry, young man. No charge if I'm wrong. Before he could protest, she started speaking again. There's a great gap between you and your girlfriend. But I see now that gap is shrinking. You've been working very hard, young man. Leo's eyes went wide. But your fate is a difficult one. It's why your parents passed so young. But heaven is always fair. What it takes from you in one hand, it gives back with the other. Leo sucked in a sharp breath, goosebumps breaking out all over his arms. The first part, he could have dismissed as a lucky guess. But the second part, his parents, that hit too close to home. This creepy old woman was the real deal. He finally found his voice. Then, "Ma'am, will my girlfriend and I grow old together?" Seeing that he believed her, the old woman let out a cackling laugh that sent a shiver down his spine. "Such a timid question, young man. Why not just ask if you'll be married?" Leo's face was serious. "Because people get married and divorced. They get back together and get divorced again. I don't care about the process. I only care if she's the one at the end of it all. If she's the one I'll be with for the rest of my life. Rest easy, young man. Your ending with that girl will be just as you hope." A wide, relieved grin spread across Leo's face. It was like watching a movie full of twists and turns, but you were the only one who had read the script and knew the good guys won in the end. He immediately dug into his pocket, pulled out all the cash he had, and pressed it into her hand. "Ma'am, this is all the cash I have. If it's not enough, do you take Venmo? I don't use those things. This is enough." She tucked the money into her tunic pocket and gave him one last, meaningful look. "Go now, young man. You and your girlfriend have a very fortunate few days ahead of you." With that, she turned her hunched back to him and shuffled toward another person standing by the road, talking on their phone. Leo watched her go, mumbling to himself, "A very fortunate few days. I wonder what that could be." He walked back toward the airsoft field, texting Isabelle about the crazy fortune teller. She still didn't reply, but this time he wasn't worried at all. He knew she was shopping, and with the old woman's prediction echoing in his mind, he felt a sense of eager anticipation. His earlier disappointment about their canceled date had vanished, replaced by a buoyant optimism. At 6 in the evening, Leo and his friends emerged from the park, exhausted but exhilarated. Rex was already planning their next trip. "This place is awesome. We have to come back next week." Leo rolled his eyes. "Forget it. With your aim, if it weren't for Felix carrying us, those middle schoolers would have taken you out 5 times over. You don't get it. It's called a diversionary tactic." Before Leo could fire back, his phone buzzed. He pulled it out and saw Walter Wallace's name on screen. He answered with a smile. "Hey, Walter, what's up?" Walter's voice on the other end was frantic. "Leo, it's bad. There's been a major shakeup at Thornton Industries. A few hours ago, Richard Thornton was taken in for questioning by the feds." "Leo, it's bad. There's been a major shakeup at Thornton Industries. A few hours ago, Richard Thornton was taken in for questioning by the feds." The panicked urgency in Walter's voice made Leo's heart seize. For a moment, he was speechless. Walter, oblivious to Leo's stunned silence, continued. "This morning, during a board meeting, federal agents walked in and took him away in front of all the shareholders and senior executives. The preliminary charges are tax evasion, illegal bidding, and embezzlement, among other things." His tone grew heavy. "If all of these charges stick, based on my experience, Richard Thornton is looking at massive fines and a prison sentence of at least 15 years. And if they uncover anything else during the investigation, it could easily become a life sentence." Walter's grim pronouncements filled one ear, while his friend's cheerful post-game chatter filled the other. For a disorienting moment, Leo couldn't tell which reality was real and which was the dream. A cold gust of wind hit his face, a harsh reminder that both were real. He just couldn't believe what he was hearing. After a long silence, he finally found his voice. "Walter, when I was at your house for dinner, didn't you say the lawsuits against Thornton Industries and Mr. Thornton wouldn't go to trial for another month or two? How did this happen so fast?" He couldn't finish the thought. He couldn't bear to imagine Isabelle's reaction when she heard the news. She would fall apart. A knot of dread tightened in his chest. He needed to get to her now. Walter sighed heavily. Under normal circumstances, yes, what I told you is correct. The trials wouldn't have started until April at the earliest. And even then, the legal process would have taken a significant amount of time. But this is different. The lawsuits I mentioned were civil cases. Even if he lost, he'd just have to pay a fine. This is criminal. He's being investigated for embezzlement, dereliction of duty. These are serious federal crimes. When there's evidence of this kind of activity, the feds move in immediately. Walter lowered his voice. To put it bluntly, someone handed the feds a mountain of evidence against him. That's why this came out of nowhere. The fact that our firm, as Thornton Industries legal counsel, had no warning means Richard himself didn't see it coming. The timing is no coincidence. Whoever did this waited until he was already entangled in other legal battles to make their move. They want to make sure he has absolutely no chance of recovery. But Leo's expression was a storm of confusion. He opened his mouth, but no other words came out. Walter sighed again. "Look, Leo, I'm telling you all this so you have the full picture. You need to be there for Isabelle right now. As his daughter, her first instinct will be to reach out to all the board members and allies who were close to her father. But you heard me. This was a well-planned attack. If she gets involved, she could get dragged down with him. You have to talk her out of it. And don't get any ideas yourself. I've only met Isabelle once, but I'm worried about you. Your parents are gone. When something like this happens, your first impulse will be to throw everything Starfall Media has at the problem to help her. But against a behemoth like Thornton Industries, Starfall is a drop in the bucket. Your help would be meaningless. You need to protect what you've built. Do not act rashly. Do you understand? Leo's mind was reeling. He knew Walter was right. His words were a desperate plea to keep Leo from making a catastrophic mistake. He managed a heavy, yeah, then added, "Don't worry, Walter. I care about Isabelle, but I'm not that reckless. I'll be there for her." "Good. I trust your judgment. I'm almost at the office. Our senior partners have already called an emergency meeting." "Okay. Thanks, Walter. I'll let you get to it." Leo was about to hang up when a thought struck him. "Wait, Walter. What is it, Leo? This news about Mr. Thornton, is it only known to people who do business with the company?" "No. An inside source leaked it to the press this afternoon. Every major news outlet is running with it now. I suspect that was also part of their plan." After hanging up, Leo still couldn't process it. Isabelle's father had been arrested by the feds. Rex, completely oblivious, nudged his arm. "Come on, Leo, let's get back to the car. It's getting cold out here. You're paying tonight, right? How about we hit up that hot pot place?" Leo shook his head. "You guys go ahead. I got to go." "Hey, if you don't want to pay, that's fine. I'll treat. I was just joking. It's not about the money. You guys go have fun. I'll Venmo you later. I have to go." Without another word, Leo turned and ran toward his car, pulling up his text conversation with Isabelle. The message he had sent hours ago about playing airsoft was still unread. A cold dread washed over him. He was a fool. Everything with Starfall had been going so well. His life with Isabelle had been so sweet and happy, and that damn fortune teller had lulled him into a false sense of security. He'd been so wrapped up in his own good fortune that he hadn't realized the truth. Isabelle had probably gotten the news right after she texted him about going shopping. As soon as he got in the car, he pulled up the news. The bright red headlines jumped out at him, each one a blow to the chest. Thornton Industries chairman taken into federal custody amid allegations of fraud, tax evasion, and embezzlement. Before starting the car, Leo called Isabelle. As he'd feared, it went straight to voicemail. Fortunately, Walter's warning had kept him from completely losing his head. Instead of panicking, he immediately dialed Haley Sia. Haley sounded surprised to hear from him, her voice laced with concern. "Leo, why are you calling me? Is Isabelle okay?" Her words confirmed his worst fears. Isabelle had known since this afternoon. Haley and the others must have been with her when she found out. Leo paused, then asked in a low voice, "I'm not with her. I just found out about what happened. Her phone is off, and I can't reach her. I'm calling to ask when she found out." "Oh God, I thought you already knew. We were just about to leave for the mall this afternoon when Isabelle got a phone call." All the color just drained from her face. "She told us something had happened at home, and she had to leave immediately. Right after she left, a news alert popped up on Jesse's laptop. It was the first thing we saw, Thornton Industries chairman taken into custody." "Okay, I understand." Knowing she was likely already in New York, Leo prepared to hang up and book a flight. It was still early enough. He could definitely catch the last flight out tonight. After ending the call with Haley, he started booking a ticket with one hand and dialed Lester with the other. To his surprise, Lester's phone was also unreachable. It wasn't off, but the line was constantly busy. He tried several times with no luck. He gave up and tried Landon Archer, but his line was busy too. It made a twisted kind of sense. With Thornton Industries in chaos, Landon's family company, which had close ties, would be in crisis mode. As for Lester, just as Walter had predicted, Isabelle was probably having him contact every ally she could think of. Leo stopped trying to call and floored it, heading for the airport. Meanwhile, at the Thornton estate in New York City, Lester, having made the calls Isabelle requested, returned to the living room where she sat on the sofa. "Miss," he said, his voice heavy, "I've contacted all the board members on your list, as you asked." Isabelle didn't look up from her laptop, her fingers flying across the keyboard as she fired off messages. She simply gave a soft Lester couldn't help but press on. "Miss, when I heard the news this morning about your father, I couldn't believe it. We underestimated her ambition, her ruthlessness. These accusations, they won't just cost him control of the company. They will ruin him." Isabelle's lips thinned. "Lester, this has nothing to do with ambition anymore. Once she started down this path, there was no turning back. If she showed even a moment of mercy, my father's pride would never have let it go. She planned this from the beginning. She never intended to leave him a way out." Lester sighed. "But the situation is far worse than we anticipated. The plan you put in place, is it truly enough to save the company?" And your father? Can he really be saved? Don't worry, Lester, she said, her voice quiet but firm. I will not let my father's life's work fall into the hands of an outsider. With that, Isabelle finally stopped typing. She turned the laptop around so Lester could see the screen. When Lester saw the chat logs and the officially stamped documents, his eyes widened in disbelief. He rubbed them, certain he was seeing things. It was impossible. Miss, he stammered, his voice filled with awe. When did you prepare all this? I had no idea. I'm sorry for not telling you, Lester. I wasn't sure if it would work, so I didn't want to give you false hope. Lester felt no anger, only a surge of renewed optimism that chased away his despair. If this is the case, then it's only a matter of time before you get the company back for your father. The second Mrs. Thornton's scheme may just fail after all. Then, a thought struck him. Oh, Mr. Yeager has been trying to call me repeatedly. He must know what's happened. At the mention of Leo's name, Isabelle's expression became complicated. She pursed her lips and pulled out her phone, only to find the screen black. The battery was dead. She quickly plugged it in. While she waited for it to boot up, she stared out the window, her gaze distant. Lester, I never told him about any of this. When he finds out the truth, will he think I wasn't being honest with him? Mr. Yeager is not that kind of person. Please call him back. He must be worried sick. I will. Less than an hour after leaving the airsoft field, Leo was in the airport parking garage. He'd just gotten out of the car when his phone vibrated. His body tensed as he fumbled to pull it out. When he saw the caller ID, his heart started hammering against his ribs. It was Isabelle. He answered, his voice a rush of frantic concern. Hello, are you okay? I just bought a ticket for the 8 p.m. flight to New York. I'm at the airport now. I'm heading to security. I can be at LaGuardia before 10. Isabelle seemed taken aback by his frantic outpouring. She didn't respond immediately, which Leo misinterpreted as sobbing. Hey, just calm down, he said quickly. Your dad was just taken in for questioning. The charges haven't been proven yet. This could all be a tactic from his business rivals, a way to distract him while they make a move. Once the investigation is over, he'll be released. Don't assume the worst. Finally, her voice came through the line, surprisingly steady. Leo, I'm fine. I've already spoken to a few of the board members. I know it's just the investigation phase right now. Nothing is going to happen to my father yet. She paused, her voice softening. Don't worry about me so much. As soon as I got the news this afternoon, I had Lester book me a flight home. I left in a hurry and didn't realize my phone was dead. I'm sorry I made you worry for so long. Don't say sorry to me. I'm already at the airport. I'm going through security now. Leo was jogging toward the checkpoint as he spoke, his breathing heavy. Hearing his panting, Isabelle said quickly, Leo, wait. Don't go through security yet. Find a quiet place to sit down. I need to talk to you. The terminal was a cacophony of announcements and conversations. Hearing the calm in her voice, Leo realized something was off. She was too calm, calmer than she usually was, even on a normal day. There was none of the panic or fear he'd expected. He knew it had been a few hours, but this wasn't something you just got over. As long as her father was under investigation, she should have been a wreck. He did as she said, finding a relatively quiet corner near a departure gate. Okay, I'm here. What's going on? There was a moment of hesitation on the other end. The person who turned my father in, she said, her voice low. It was Sharon. Your stepmother? Yes. Leo was stunned. On the drive over, he'd pieced together from Walter's words that it had to be an inside job. Someone close to her father, someone who could gather that much evidence. He'd assumed it was a rival board member trying to stage a coup, a common enough story in the corporate world. He never would have guessed it was his own wife. After a moment of shock, he said carefully, Are you sure? I know she isn't close with you, but she must have feelings for your father. She just had his child. Why would she do something that could send him to prison? Her baby would grow up without a father. There's no mistake. I told you before, she sent me away from New York, so she could pursue her ambitions without me getting in the way. I've been preparing for this with Lester for a very, very long time. My father, he was too. She faltered, her voice catching. She took a few deep breaths before continuing, her voice trembling. He was too in love with her, and too arrogant. He saw her ambition, he saw it growing, but he let it happen. He thought it was just petty games, that she could never truly threaten his position. But he only ever saw the performance she wanted him to see. So, her baby was just a tool to her, a part of her plan. I can't explain it any other way. Why else would she not only seize his company, but also send him to prison? She could have just taken his empire without destroying him. But she didn't. My father gave his heart to a woman who only ever had ambition. Her voice was laced with a deep, weary sadness. In that moment, everything clicked into place for Leo. Richard Thornton, blinded by love and pride. Isabelle, seeing the truth long ago, secretly preparing a counteroffensive to protect her father's legacy. And Sharon, more ruthless than anyone could have imagined, willing to sacrifice her own child's father to secure her victory. A wave of revulsion washed over Leo. Could someone really be so calculating, so cruel? As he struggled to process the sheer depravity of it all, Isabelle spoke again. Leo, don't come to New York. I can handle this. I promise you. I will protect everything my father built. When Leo heard Isabelle tell him not to come to New York, he felt a surge of panic. What do you mean? How can I not? Your family is going through something huge. As your boyfriend, I should be there with you. It doesn't feel right letting you face all of that alone. But you have your own things to do, she said, her voice soft but firm through the phone. Starfall is in the middle of a major transition, and a lot of that needs your personal attention. I don't want my problems to get in your way. Get in my way? You're the most important. This time, Isabelle cut him off before he could finish. Leo, trust me. I never expected Sharon to try and send my dad to prison, but Lester and I have been preparing for a day like this for a long time. I have absolutely no intention of letting her plan succeed. She paused, and when she spoke again, her voice was lighter, yet laced with a new kind of resolve. And I want to show you what I can do. I want to show my dad, too. I want the two most important people in my life to know that I'm not just some girl who needs to stand behind you, who needs to be protected. I can hold my own. I can help carry the weight, too. Leo's hand tightened on his phone. Her words were a mix of heartbreaking and inspiring. He knew, of course, that she wasn't some damsel in distress. She was the Thornton heiress, coddled by everyone since birth, but her life had forged her into someone calm and independent. And she had always wanted a chance to help her father become the man he was before her mother died. This was her chance, a chance to protect her father's life's work with her own strength, to prove how much she'd grown. Still, he was worried. Mr. Wallace had warned him on the phone. If Isabelle waded into this mess, she could get dragged down, tangled up in unnecessary trouble. The thought of her in New York all by herself. Leo was about to argue that he was coming anyway, but a different thought flickered through his mind, and he changed his words just as they left his lips. Okay, I get it. I won't come to New York for now. But while you're there helping your dad, you have to be careful. Keep Lester with you at all times. He took a breath, voicing the thought that had just struck him. Honestly, I'm terrified for you. But I also feel like, as your boyfriend, I have to support your choices. Just, if you start to feel overwhelmed, tell me. I'll be on the next flight to New York, no questions asked. A warm smile bloomed in Isabelle's voice. Thank you, Leo. Thank you for respecting my decision. Don't worry. Lester and I have a plan ready. We just need to follow the steps, and we'll have the situation stabilized soon. As soon as Dad is back home, I'll be on the first flight back to Crestview. Okay, so you'll drive back to campus like a good boy. And don't you dare lie to me, say you won't come, and then sneak onto a plane after we hang up. Her sudden, coolly suspicious tone made Leo chuckle. I'm always up front, not like someone who sneaks back from New York without a word just to spend Christmas Eve with me. There was a slight pause, and Leo could practically picture her pressing her lips together. That's because my affection for you is quiet and subtle. Yours is loud and dramatic. So be a little more dramatic next time, he teased. It'll be a nice contrast to your usual Ice Queen vibe. Ever heard of opposites attract? Absolutely not. If I listen to everything you say, I'll turn into one of those totally whipped girls. You already are one, he wanted to say, but he didn't have the heart. Besides, he was just as bad. The pot couldn't exactly call the kettle black. Just when he thought she was about to hang up, her playful tone vanished. Leo, she said again, her voice soft. I might be really busy for the next few days and won't be able to talk much. Be good and wait for me in Crestview. And if you're really worried, just watch the news. Watch the news? Why? Isabelle let out a faint laugh, her voice cool and crisp. Because your girlfriend is about to make a big move. After the call ended, Leo stood frozen, watching the crowds flow through the airport terminal. His heart was a tangled mess of emotions. He was still worried sick about her, but he knew he had to respect her decision. He went through the process of canceling his ticket, then walked back to the parking garage and drove away from the airport. On the way back to campus, his phone rang repeatedly. Kevin Miles, even Julian Croft. They'd all seen the news about Richard Thornton and Thornton Industries being investigated by the feds. They all called to ask if he was okay. Leo gave them all a brief explanation and told them not to worry. It was 9 p.m. when he got back to his dorm. The moment he walked in, Rex Gow's head snapped up. He abandoned the game he was playing and rushed over. Leo, what are you doing back here? Leo was confused. Where else would I be? On the way back to campus, I saw the news about Richard Thornton being investigated. I figured that's why you left in such a hurry. To go be with Isabelle. Shouldn't you be with her right now? Leo understood. Rex had seen the news, too. She went back to New York. She's staying there to handle it. Dude, Rex looked at him, shaking his head in disappointment. Then you should be on a plane to New York. Her family's in crisis. You're supposed to be there for her. He paused, his expression turning serious. Look, I get that you can't do much to fix a mess at a giant corporation like Thornton Industries, but you can at least be by her side. I already called the lawyer who handles my dad's business. He said the case is serious, but it's still in the investigation phase. They don't have concrete evidence yet. He's putting together a file for me, and I'll forward it to you. See if there's anything in there that can help Isabelle's side. Hearing this, Leo just stared at him, stunned. Rex, you. A little heartbreak coming within the next 50 chapters. Also, please check out the ads and send some free gifts. Traffic has dropped a lot since the semester started, and my income has almost disappeared, sob. Leo looked at Rex's earnest face, a warmth spreading through his chest. For a moment, he didn't know how to react. But Rex wasn't nearly as conflicted. He puffed out his chest. Hey, you hooked me up with that sweet talent manager gig at Starfall. I'm not some ungrateful asshole. This is the least I can do. He then muttered under his breath. I'll call my dad again later. The guys he does business with, those other coal barons, their biggest expense is always their legal teams. They've probably dealt with cases just like the one Isabelle's dad is facing. I'll see if my old man can pull some strings, get a few lawyers on the case to help out. With that, Rex pulled out his phone and dialed. Dad, it's me, Rex. You busy? If not, I wanted to ask you something. What? Did I get in trouble at school and need you to bail me out? No, of course not. Your son is past making those kinds of rookie mistakes. As Rex started talking to his father, Leo finally snapped out of his daze, a spark of excitement igniting within him. Rex had a point. His dad was a coal baron, one of those new money types who often had a looser interpretation of business law than established corporate leaders. Back in the day, a lot of them struck it rich overnight, and some of their methods weren't exactly legal. To protect themselves, they'd hired the best, most ruthless lawyers in the country. If Rex could actually get a couple of them to connect with Isabelle in New York, it could be a huge help. A few minutes later, Rex walked back over, phone in hand. Leo, I told my dad about it. He agreed. He said he'll have our guy, Mr. Chun, fly out to New York in the next couple of days. Send me Isabelle's contact info, and I'll pass it on to him. Mr. Chun? Leo asked instinctively. Yeah, he's a lawyer and one of my dad's best friends. He's the one who gets our family out of all the big legal messes. My dad always says that without Mr. Chun, the Gao family wouldn't be where it is today. So don't worry, Isabelle's dad is going to be fine. Leo nodded heavily, opening his mouth to thank him, but the words felt awkward. Rex was usually such a goofball that sincerity felt strange between them. Rex saw his hesitation and grinned. Dude, don't worry about thanking me. Just give me a custom Starfall Media Talent Manager ID badge. It'll make it easier for me to slide into DMs. Scout potential talent. No problem. Come to the office with me tomorrow, and you can pick it up. But seriously, on behalf of Isabelle, thank you. Rex waved him off. Don't mention it. Honestly, my dad agreed so quickly because he knows it's Thornton Industries we're helping. If Mr. Chen really helps Isabelle's dad out, then once he's in the clear, my dad will have a major favor call in that could help expand our family's business empire. And even if he can't help, Isabelle will remember we tried. As the daughter of the chairman, she's a valuable connection. It's a win-win. He leaned in, a mischievous glint in his eye. Besides, this is mainly to help you. One day, when Starfall Media is the biggest MCN in the country, I can flex on people and say, without me, where would the great Leo Yeager be today? Felix, who had been quiet until now, deadpanned. So you're doing all this just for future bragging rights. Damn right. I live to flex on people. Rex flicked his hair dramatically, one step away from covering an eye and whispering the name of some anime supermove. But the more he played it up, the more Leo knew he was just trying to keep things light to stop him from feeling indebted. Looking back, Leo realized that ever since the news about Isabelle's family broke, the people who truly cared had all reached out. First Mr. Wallace, then Kevin and Miles, and now Rex and the guys. He felt surrounded by genuine friends, a feeling 100, 1,000, 1,000,000 times better than the so-called home he'd grown up in. The next morning, Felix's alarm blared, a brutal reminder of his A.M. class. The first thing Leo did was grab his phone from under his pillow and scroll through the news headlines. Isabelle had told him to watch the news if he was worried, and he was taking her at her word. But after a thorough search, he found nothing new about Thornton Industries. He realized he was being impatient. Even if Isabelle had been preparing, her counterattack wouldn't happen overnight. Besides, the biggest stories usually broke around noon or in the evening. Still, what was her big move? He was dying to know what she had planned to use against her stepmother, Sharon. After a quick shower, Leo headed to class with Rex and the others. The sky was a dreary, heavy gray, and just as they reached the building, a light rain began to fall, sinking Leo's already low spirits even further. There, Ada M. was a large lecture with another section. The moment Leo stepped into the hall, Haley Xia rushed over, her face etched with worry. Leo, how is Isabelle's dad? Is she doing okay? The feds are still in the investigation stage. If they can't find any solid evidence, the charges won't stick, Leo explained, keeping it brief. She's in New York, and she's holding up better than you'd think. Haley sighed. It's a shame there's nothing we can do as friends but worry from here. Leo opened his mouth, then closed it. She was right. There was nothing her friends could do. And even he, her supposedly capable boyfriend, felt powerless against a corporate giant like Thornton Industries. He sat through the lecture in a depressed haze. Afterward, he called Rex over, planning to take him to the office to get his ID badge. Just as they walked out of the campus gates and headed for Leo's car, a figure appeared behind them. Leo Yeager, you stop right there. Leo Yeager, you stop right there. The familiar, shrill voice sent a jolt of annoyance through Leo. His brow furrowed, but he didn't turn around. He just kept walking. Rex, however, stopped and glanced back. Hey, Leo, he whispered. I think some woman is yelling your name. Ignore her. Get in the car, Leo said flatly. He didn't need to look. He knew from the sound alone that it was his aunt, Brenda, who he hadn't seen in months. Rex looked confused but didn't ask questions, simply nodding and following Leo's lead. Brenda was clearly shocked that he hadn't even bothered to turn around. She scrambled forward, blocking their path. Months later, she still had that same sour, bitter expression, as if the whole world owed her $1 million. But her clothes were different. Before, she wore decent, off-the-rack brands. Now, her outfit was worn and slightly tattered. Leo stared at her, his face a mask of indifference. He stuffed his hands in his pockets. You're in our way. His dismissive attitude made Brenda's blood boil, and she looked ready to explode. But then she remembered why she was there and forced the anger down, plastering a smile on her face. She held out a container of cherries. Leo, honey, I bought these on the way here. I know you kids like these fancy cherries, so I got some for you. They were pretty expensive. Take them back to share with your little girlfriend. Leo knew she meant Isabelle, but his expression didn't change. No, thanks. I don't like them. Neither does my girlfriend. Oh, Brenda froze, a wave of awkwardness washing over her. She couldn't tell if he was being honest or just brushing her off. Unsure what to do, she turned to Rex with the same forced smile. You must be one of Leo's classmates, right? Since he doesn't want them, why don't you take them? I'm his aunt, don't be shy. Rex didn't take the cherries either. He just glanced at Leo, who shot him a cold, hard look. Rex instantly got the message. He shrugged, copied Leo by stuffing his hands in his pockets, and looked away. Brenda was left with her arm outstretched, hanging awkwardly in midair. Finally, her face flushed with embarrassment, and she slowly lowered her hand. After a moment of silence, she tried again. Leo, I've been at home these past few months, doing a lot of thinking. I know we were wrong before. I'm truly sorry. As for your parents' survivor benefits, you took them back, and that's that. I'll never bring it up again. She dredged up another sycophantic smile. A few days ago, your uncle and I saw you on TV on that Crestview News interview. We found out you started a business in college, and you're doing so well, making all this money, a boss with dozens of employees. I always knew you had it in you. Don't worry, I'm not here to ask for money. I'd never do that again. It's your hard-earned cash. I was just thinking, since you're the boss of such a big company, it should be easy for you to find a job for your cousin, Derek, right? I looked into it. You have other college kids his age working for you. He's no different from them, and he's on his phone and computer all the time, so he's probably even better at that stuff than most people. You don't even have to give him a big salary because he's your cousin. $7,000 or $8,000 a month would be fine. Leo almost laughed out loud. He seriously wanted to crack her skull open and see what was inside. It had to be pure sewage. How could a human being even form those words? He was already on edge because of Isabelle's situation. Brenda showing up now was the last straw. He didn't care about the students passing by or that Rex was standing right there. His face went cold. If you've got a problem with your brain, and those two useless wastes of space you live with can't afford to get you help, I can. Offer a couple of slaps to fix it for you. His voice was low and menacing. Give Derek a job? Why don't you just have him call me Dad? And I'll set up his future wife and kids, too. He's better than most people. All he does is play games on his phone and computer. He's a good-for-nothing parasite. Calling him a parasite is a compliment. If he's human, I'll eat my shoe. And how dare you say he's my cousin? Forget being his brother. Being even remotely associated with him is a goddamn disgrace. He took a step closer. Finally, after we went to court, I cut all ties with you. I have the legal papers to prove it. If you ever show up in front of me again, don't be surprised when my lawyer sues you for harassment. Leo shoved her aside. Get out of my way. I have things to do. I don't have time to waste on you. That useless piece of crap Derek wants to make money, but he makes his own mother come begging for him. How pathetic. Without another glance, Leo grabbed a stunned Rex, pulled him into the car, buckled up, and slammed his foot on the gas. All he left Brenda was a cloud of exhaust fumes. Staring at the rapidly disappearing car, Brenda finally processed the torrent of unfiltered insults he'd hurled at her. Leo, you. Her vision swam with black spots, and a sharp pain shot through her chest. Just then, another car sped by, hitting a puddle and splashing dirty water all over her. Brenda let out a piercing shriek. Overwhelmed with rage, she stumbled and collapsed onto the pavement, too weak to even get back up. In the car, Rex watched Brenda's figure shrink into a black dot in the rearview mirror. The shock finally wore off. Holy shit, he exclaimed. Leo, that was brutal. Every word was a critical hit. I've never seen you go on the offensive like that. He paused. If I'm not mistaken, that was your aunt, right? She used to be, Leo said, his voice void of emotion. Rex nodded. Dude, I've known you for a while. You only ever swear when you're messing around with me, Felix and Ned. I've never heard you talk like that in public. For you to unload on that woman with no filter, she must have done some seriously messed up stuff. Just from what she said, I can tell she was an S-tier bitch even when she was younger. Leo didn't respond right away. After a long silence, he started talking. He told Rex everything. About growing up in Brenda's house. About the lawsuit months ago, where he'd taken back everything that was his. By the time they pulled up to the office building where Starfall Media was located, he had finished his story. Rex looked at him, his expression a complex mix of emotions, and for a long time, he was speechless. The usual carefree smirk was gone, replaced by a deep seriousness. It was only the second time Leo had ever seen him look that way. Leo, Rex said, his voice earnest. Before I knew all that, I honestly thought you were being a little disrespectful to an elder. I mean, she's your aunt. But now that I know what she did, just yelling at her seems like nothing. It doesn't even begin to compare to the damage she did to you as a kid. A genuine smile finally broke through Leo's stony expression. He unbuckled his seatbelt. It's not like I could just stab her and call it even. That wouldn't be satisfying. As long as she keeps spoiling that worthless son of hers, one day he'll be the one to sell her and her husband out for his own gain. He waved a hand dismissively. Let's not talk about them. It just puts me in a bad mood. Let's go up. I told my staff about your ID badge last night. It should be ready for you. All hail the Godfather. New York City. A luxury maternity recovery suite. Sharon Thornton gently stroked the face of her newborn child, a blissful expression on her face. She looked up at Rochelle, Richard Thornton's secretary, who stood beside her. Rochelle, I owe you for this. Without you, my plan wouldn't have gone so smoothly. Rochelle kept her head down. You're too kind, Mrs. Thornton. I was only following your instructions. Yeah, same difference. No need to be modest. I'm just curious. You betrayed a boss you worked for so many years. Do you think one day you'll betray me the same way you betrayed Richard? Rochelle's face paled. Never, Mrs. Thornton. You saved me. If it weren't for you, my brother wouldn't have had the chance to study abroad, and my mother might have already. That's all I needed to hear. You and Jonathan are the two people I trust most right now, Sharon said, glancing at her driver, who stood silently by the door. She pulled a bank card from a drawer and handed it to Rochelle. Here, as promised. There's $5 million in there. It should be enough to cover all the debts your brother racked up back home. Then she produced a second card, and this one has an extra $2 million. You can use it for whatever you want. Mrs. Thornton, Rochelle was stunned. Sharon had only promised to clear her brother's $4 million debt after everything was done. But now, she was giving her an extra $2 million. Seeing her hesitation, Sharon smiled faintly. You took a huge risk and did me a great service. But all the reward was going to pay off your brother's mistakes. Would you really be okay with that? I imagine anyone would feel a little resentful. But you can't bring yourself to abandon him. So, I'll solve that problem for you. Consider the extra $2 million a bonus. Thank you, Mrs. Thornton, Rochelle exclaimed, eagerly taking the second card. $2 million. All for her. Sharon's expression was neutral. $2 million was nothing to her. But it was this kind of calculated generosity that bought her such fiercely loyal followers. Once the baby was asleep, she had a nurse take him away, and the maternal warmth vanished from her face. Rochelle, I need you and Jonathan to keep things moving according to plan. I can't make any public moves myself right now. If I do, those old geezers who were friends with Richard will figure out I was behind this. I can't have them interfering before I have full control of Thornton Industries. Understood, Mrs. Thornton. You can count on us. Just then, Jonathan stepped forward. Ma'am, he said quietly, Miss Thornton arrived in New York yesterday morning. She's at the family estate. Do you think she might? Sharon cut him off, her tone dripping with contempt. I know what you're going to say. She's just a little girl. Her own father never loved her, which has tricked her into thinking she's clever in some small, petty way. I've known about her and that driver, Lester, and their little schemes for ages. I was just pretending not to notice. Does she really think she can save that foolish father of hers? Her voice grew more arrogant. Even if she wanted to, that idiot Richard would probably take the fall for everything, all for the sake of the son I just gave him. She was utterly confident, certain that nothing could possibly go wrong. She had no idea that in just a few hours, she wouldn't be smiling at all. Leo led Rex into the Starfall offices. It was Saturday, so only a few employees in essential roles were at their desks. The space felt mostly empty. Leo, why are there so few people here? Rex asked, confused. It's only 11. It can't be lunchtime already. It's Saturday. Of course, no one's here. The people at their desks are in special roles, kind of like your talent manager position. Rex smacked his forehead. Oh, right, I forgot it was Saturday. We have that Ada M class every other Saturday this semester, so my brain still thinks it's a weekday. Leo smiled and led him to his office. He'd already asked his assistant to leave the newly made badge on his desk. When Rex got his hands on the talent manager ID, his eyes lit up, a grin stretching from ear to ear. He couldn't contain his excitement. Suddenly, he remembered something. Oh, by the way, Leo, since I officially started, I've already scouted a few girls who are gorgeous and fit the brand image you're going for. Want to take a look? If you give the okay, I'll move on to the next step and contact them. No, that's a job for a professional. My opinion doesn't count for much. Our content operations manager is in today. I'll call him over and you can talk to him. Sounds good. Leo went out and found Bryce Peterson, Starfall's newly hired content operations manager. Bryce, this is our current talent manager, Rex Gao. Could you talk with him and see if the people he scouted are a good fit for the new accounts we're planning to launch? Of course, Mr. Yeager. Mr. Gao, this way, please, Bryce said respectfully. Rex, who knew a thing or two about corporate hierarchies, realized he and Bryce were on the same level. He grinned. Bryce, man, just call me Rex. You're a few years older than me. Mr. Gao sound weird. Bryce hesitated, glancing at Leo. Leo clarified. He's my age, my roommate. He's definitely younger than you. Just go with what he said. Realizing Rex was the boss's roommate, Bryce's eyebrows shot up. It all made sense now. Why such a young guy had landed a position like talent manager, which was so ripe for personal gain. He was one of the boss's inner circle. That explained everything. Bryce smiled. Understood, sir. Rex, follow me. Rex followed Bryce into a conference room. As soon as they sat down, Rex eagerly pulled out the videos and profiles he'd collected. He even presented his own analysis for each one. Bryce, check these out. I handpicked every single one. I think their look and vibe are a perfect match for the youthful, energetic persona we want to build. Bryce reviewed Rex's notes, his expression serious. He tapped his finger on the table, lost in thought. After a while, he looked up. Rex, I can tell this is your first time putting together a report like this. A lot of it is incomplete, but I have to say you've got a great eye. The raw material here is outstanding. However, being an influencer is about more than just a pretty face. Content creation skills and a unique personality are crucial. Otherwise, if we sign them and they have no creative foundation, we have to manage everything for them. All they do is show up for shoots. Right now, with the company just starting its transition, we can't afford to take on talent with zero creative skills. He pointed to one of the photos. This girl, for example. Her look is perfect, but her past videos are all pretty one note. There's no innovation or depth. With our current resources, we can't develop her into a well-rounded, high-quality influencer. Rex nodded along, impressed by Bryce's professionalism. You're totally right, Bryce. I was definitely focused more on looks and image. I overlooked the deeper stuff. So what's our next move for screening them? Bryce took a sip of tea. Let's do this. We'll score these candidates based on a few criteria: image, talent, and content creation potential. You can then reach out to the top scorers and see if they're interested in signing with us. Once we have a list of interested candidates, we'll schedule online and in-person interviews and screen tests. During the interviews, we'll focus on their understanding of content creation and their feel for viral trends. Got it, Rex said. After asking Bryce a few more questions, he sat down at Bryce's desk and got to work. If Leo had been there, he would have been floored. Rex's expression was one of intense focus, a look he never, ever wore in their dorm room. Bryce returned to Leo's office. Mr. Yeager, he said sincerely, Rex has a great eye for looks, but the talent he's found doesn't quite align with Starfall's current strategy. I've given him some guidance on what to look for. Leo nodded. When he'd offered Rex the job, it wasn't just to prevent someone else from abusing the position. He genuinely believed Rex could do it. After all, you can question Rex about anything, but you can never question his taste. For the next hour, Leo stayed in his office, handling work while Rex sat outside, learning the ropes from Bryce, who had been in the industry for over 5 years. Around noon, most of the employees left for lunch. Leo finally finished his work and stretched. Just as he was about to check his phone for news on Thornton Industries, the office door flew open with a bang. Rex burst in, shoving his phone in Leo's face, his expression one of pure shock. Leo, quick, look at the news. The tables have turned. This has to be Isabelle's doing, right? Leo froze, then looked down at the news article Rex had pulled up. A few seconds later, his eyes widened. He knew, without a doubt, that this was what his girlfriend had meant by her. Big move. Update. Following yesterday's federal investigation into Thornton Industries chairman Richard Thornton, which resulted in multiple project halts and frozen assets, the company faced a potential liquidity crisis after a board meeting where several key investors withdrew funding. However, in a stunning reversal this morning, the Thornton Industries board announced that UK-based UL Investments will become a new primary investor, with a stated capital injection greater than the combined sum of the previous investors. Furthermore, multiple board members have issued a joint statement expressing their unwavering belief in Mr. Thornton's innocence. Reading the article, the dark cloud that had been hanging over Leo all morning finally dissipated. It was like he'd been living in a gray, numb world, and suddenly a crack had appeared, letting in a rush of fresh, clean air. He had no idea who was behind UL Investments, but he knew one thing for certain. For a firm to make such a massive investment in Thornton Industries right now, when its chairman was under investigation and major projects were stalled, someone had to be pulling the strings. And that someone was Isabelle Thornton. This was her big move. She had protected her father's life's work. As Leo reeled from shock and excitement, Rex spoke again. Leo, you might not know about UL Investments, but I've heard a bit about them. My older brother was looking into them over winter break. If I remember right, they just exploded onto the scene in the UK a few years ago. They started investing in a ton of companies, always coming in strong. Even if they lost money on one deal, they'd immediately jump to the next, always outbidding everyone else. That aggressive style got them a lot of attention over there. About a year ago, they started investing in the U.S. One of their first big moves was backing Chatterjee. It was UL's money that made Chatterjee the undisputed king of the boba market here. Rex let out a low whistle. So, with UL Investments on board, even if, and this is a big if, okay? I'm just saying hypothetically, even if your girlfriend's dad is found guilty, Thornton Industries won't collapse. UL has so much money, they can just throw it at PR to rebuild the company's reputation. All they need is a new chairman as capable as her dad, and Thornton Industries would be back on top in no time. Rex, are they really that powerful? Leo asked, his shock deepening. If what Rex said was true, Isabelle's power play was terrifyingly effective. How did she manage to bring in a titan like that, especially during such a volatile time? It was something her father hadn't even managed to do before all this. They're that powerful. Actually, they're probably even more powerful than I'm making them sound. What I know is just the tip of the iceberg from my brother's research. Leo nodded, finally understanding the calm confidence in Isabelle's voice the day before. With an ace like this up her sleeve, of course she was calm. He also suspected this wasn't her only move. The rest, he figured, would be revealed in the daily news, just as she'd said. A wave of relief washed over him, and he finally smiled. If that's the case, then I'm not worried anymore. The company is stable, and your Mr. Shin is on his way to New York to help with her dad's case. Exactly. I should call my dad and tell him UL is backing Thornton. When he hears that, he'll definitely praise me for my foresight in offering support. I think my brother is actually trying to partner with UL on a few of his projects. Heh, Rex said, grabbing his phone and stepping out of the office. Leo watched him go, a flicker of gratitude in his eyes. Rex was always like that. Most of the time, he was a clueless goofball, but in a crisis, his emotional intelligence was off the charts. He was saying all this to reassure Leo. See, I told you it was a win-win, so don't feel burdened. And he knew Leo was desperate to call Isabelle, so he conveniently made an excuse to give him some privacy. Leo didn't hesitate. He pulled out his phone and dialed her number. NNGH. Hello. Her voice was soft and raspy with sleep, sweet as honey, the end of her word lilting upwards with a lazy charm. Leo blinked. It's afternoon. Are you still sleeping? I was up late working last night, she mumbled, her voice thick with sleep. Didn't get to bed until the sun came up. Leo, what time is it? She sounded like a purring kitten, completely devoid of worry. If she were stressed, her voice wouldn't be this light. Leo checked the time. It's almost 1. Oh, I should get up. I have a lot to do this afternoon. He was now certain she hadn't seen the news. He decided to test the waters. So, you told me to watch the news yesterday, that your big move would be in there. I just saw an article. What did it say? That a UK firm called UL Investments is replacing the old investors and putting in double the original amount. Oh, her flat response made him press on. So this was your big move? How did you manage to get a foreign investment giant to back Thornton Industries so quickly? There was no immediate answer, just the sound of rustling fabric. He guessed she was turning over in bed. It's my big move, yeah, but it hasn't done maximum damage yet. And her voice dropped to a near whisper. I kind of miss you. Her slightly wounded tone made Leo's heart melt. Forgetting how cheesy it sounded, he immediately replied, I miss you too. Isabelle was quiet for a few seconds before her voice returned, laced with excitement. The company situation is almost completely resolved. Once the investment funds are transferred, Lester and the other board members can help restart the suspended projects. The only thing left is to prove Dad is innocent. Leo breathed a sigh of relief. Just as he'd suspected, she had more moves planned. He was no longer worried about the fate of Thornton Industries. With UL Investments on board, the company would survive, and it would remain a Thornton company. Your dad will be fine, he said. And, Rex saw the news yesterday. He had his dad recommend a really good lawyer, a Mr. Chun. He's willing to take your dad's case. I forwarded him your contact info, so you should connect with him when you wake up. Thank you, Leo. I know that even though you're not here, you're constantly worried about me. She paused. But don't be. Dad might not have been a great father to me, but he's a law-abiding businessman. The worst he's ever done would just get him a fine, nothing close to jail time. All those other charges were fabricated by Sharon, with forged evidence. I'll have him home soon. That's good to hear. The last of the gloom in Leo's heart vanished. He'd been worried that her father might have actually broken some laws. If he'd been convicted, Isabelle would have been devastated. Her mother was gone, and if her father went to prison because of her stepmother, Leo feared it would break her. Now it seemed his worries were unfounded. Richard Thornton may have been a neglectful father, but he had a moral compass. Once Isabelle, with the help of Mr. Chun, proved her father's innocence, the crisis would be over, and she would come back home. I think, Leo said, a sense of hope in his voice, that when your dad gets back, he's going to see your stepmother for who she really is. And he'll finally realize how much he's neglected you all these years. In a way, this crisis might not be a bad thing. Your stepmother overplayed her hand and ended up destroying everything she had. I hope you're right. Isabelle's voice suddenly sounded small and dejected. Before Leo could comfort her, she added, Leo, I have to get up. I have so much to do. It'll still be a few days before I can come back to Crestview. Okay, one last question. I'm curious. Pulling off something like this with the company, it requires a lot of specialized knowledge. Even with the right connections, you couldn't have organized all these resources so flawlessly without it. But I do have the knowledge, she said. When did you learn all this? A light laugh came through the phone, followed by her signature cool tone. I told you before. You just weren't paying close enough attention. I'm not going to tell you again. You'll have to figure it out yourself. Okay. After hanging up, Leo stood there, deep in thought. She told me before? When? He muttered to himself. Suddenly it hit him. His mind flashed back to finals week last semester. Isabelle and her roommates were studying in the library, and he'd gone to find her. That night, Haley had said, It's your girlfriend's fault. The rest of us are watching shows every night, and she's always at her desk, reading books and watching online courses. He'd thought it was strange at the time. Isabelle was always so attentive in class that she could ace her exams without much extra studying. When he'd asked her about it, she'd replied, Haley's lying. I wasn't reading. Back then, he'd assumed she was just trying to spare his feelings, not wanting him to feel guilty for distracting her from her studies. Now he understood. She hadn't been studying for finals. The books and courses she was consuming were all about corporate management, investment strategy, and project development. Well, I'll be damned. She was making big moves in secret all along. New York City, a luxury maternity suite. A laptop slammed against the wall with a loud bang. In an instant, the infant in the crib began to wail. Sharon, standing nearby, didn't flinch. Her face was ashen with fury, and she was breathing heavily. "Damn it," she hissed. "Where the hell did this UL Investments come from? And those old fools. They're all corrupt, but they still had the nerve to vouch for Richard Thornton? Are they insane?" Minutes earlier, she had learned about UL Investments' entry into Thornton Industries, and her composure had shattered. Her plan had been simple: leak evidence of Richard's crimes to the feds, create a media frenzy, and watch as investors pulled out to minimize their losses. Once the company was on the brink of collapse, she would sweep in with her own backers and take over. With her existing shares and the support of a few board members she'd already bought, she would have become the new leader of Thornton Industries. But UL Investments had appeared out of nowhere, derailing her entire plan. Jonathan silently picked up the broken laptop. "Ma'am," he said quietly, "based on my investigation, it seems Miss Thornton was the one who brought in UL Investments." "Bullshit. She's a child. How could she possibly connect with a giant like UL? I had Landon Archer try to contact them when he was studying in the UK, using his family's name, and even he failed. How could Isabelle possibly succeed?" Sharon's eyes were bloodshot, her body trembling with rage. With Isabelle busy in New York, she wouldn't be back for at least a few days. The weekend trip Leo had planned to Prospect Point, the local landmark with the wishing well, was officially canceled. Thinking about superstitions reminded him of the creepy old woman he'd met in the public restroom before their airsoft game. She had known, with unsettling accuracy, about the massive gap between his and Isabelle's social standing. At the time, Leo had been completely convinced she was the real deal, especially after her final proclamation. "Go on, young man. You and your girlfriend are in for a very fortunate few days." But then Mr. Wallace had called with the news about Isabelle's father, and Leo had dismissed the old woman as a fraud. There was nothing fortunate about his life at that moment, and Isabelle's family crisis was the furthest thing from good luck. Now, however, after learning about Isabelle's masterful counterplan, he understood. The fortune wasn't about avoiding trouble. It was about how she handled it. It was about her outmaneuvering her stepmother, seizing control of the narrative, and in the process, proving her own strength to her father while exposing the true colors of the woman he'd married. Thinking about it that way, Leo felt a sense of peace. It was a different kind of good fortune, but fortune nonetheless. Since Isabelle was gone, Leo had no desire for entertainment. He spent all of Sunday at the office, analyzing the performance data of Starfall's accounts and reviewing reports from various departments. As for Rex, when he saw Leo heading to the office first thing in the morning, he immediately sprang out of bed, despite having played games until 3 a.m., and insisted on going with him. In his own words, he wasn't in it for the money or the fame. It was pure passion, pure, unadulterated passion for the job. When Leo returned from lunch, he found Rex still glued to his workstation, his eyes intensely focused on videos of scantily clad female influencers. Leo narrowed his eyes. "Hey, Rex," he said helpfully, "maybe watch a little less of that. It's bad for your health." Rex shot him a look of righteous indignation. "Bad for my health? What is my health compared to the interests of the company? As long as I have breath in my body, I will keep watching." Leo nearly wept. He never thought he'd see the day when the hardest working person in the entire company was Rex Gao. In the evening, after a full day of staring at analytics and ad rates, Leo stood up from his chair and stretched. He picked up the Starfall Media Future Development Plan he'd spent hours drafting and headed for Sean Zhao's office. They had discussed the company's direction not long ago, but Starfall was growing fast. With nearly 40 employees now, their strategy needed to be constantly adjusted based on market trends and platform policies. "Knock, knock, knock. Sean, it's me, Leo." He waited. No response. He knocked again. Still nothing. Just then, Don Run, who had come back to the office to grab something, saw him. "Leo, you looking for Sean?" "Yeah, I want to talk to him about something, but it looks like he's not here. I saw him this morning." Don nodded. "He was here this morning. We had lunch together. We were supposed to come back this afternoon, but he got a call. Apparently, one of his relatives' companies is having some trouble. It's a pretty big company, and Sean figured since he's had success with Starfall, he'd go see if he could help out. He probably won't be back for a couple of days." "Is that so?" Leo murmured, a little disappointed. He'd have to wait for Sean to return. Even though he had veto power, major decisions like this needed to be discussed with him. Sometimes Leo wondered if he should ask Sean to reallocate some of his shares to Kevin, or just formally hand over decision-making power to him. That way, Starfall's profits losses, and future would be entirely his responsibility, and Sean could step back and manage a single department like Dawn, Quinn, and Ruby. But every time the thought crossed his mind, he dismissed it. If Sean did that, he would essentially lose all control over the company. Starfall would become Leo's in name and in practice. Yeah, Dawn said, turning to leave. I'm heading back to campus. Hey, Dawn, I'm heading back too. Let me give you a ride. Save you the Uber fare. Sound good? On the drive back, Rex sat in the back, still laser-focused on his phone, scouting for talent. He claimed he was comparing candidates, committed to finding Starfall's next top-tier influencer. Leo just scoffed internally. He'd never heard someone describe being horny with such professional flair. Ignoring Rex, he casually asked Dawn, Hey, what industry is Sean's relative's company in? Maybe there's a chance for a collaboration with Starfall down the line. With Sean's connection, we could probably save on costs. Dawn shook his head. I'm not too sure about the details, but I think their headquarters is in New York, with a branch here in Crestview. New York? Leo was surprised. That meant the company was seriously well-established. Just the cost of leasing office space there would be astronomical, far more than even the now profitable Starfall could afford. Dawn seemed unfazed by his reaction. Yeah, Sean's family is pretty well off, so his relatives are all successful. You can ask him about it when he gets back. Back on campus, Leo and Rex said goodbye to Dawn and headed to the dining hall. Text Felix and Ned and tell them to meet us, Leo told Rex. If we don't, those two will probably spend the entire day rotting in the dorm playing games and reading novels. Got it. A few minutes later, Felix and Ned shuffled into the dining hall on their slides, hair sticking up like they just rolled out of bed, which, judging by the call from Rex, was probably true. The four of them sat down to eat. Just then, they saw Haley Xia, dressed in pajamas, getting food. When Haley spotted Leo, she trotted over in her fuzzy, cat-ear slippers. Leo, how's Isabelle's family's company doing? I looked it up online today. I saw some foreign company called UL Investments got involved, and a bunch of the board members are vouching for her dad. Yeah, it looks like her dad was set up. The investigation should clear him in a few days. Is Isabelle okay by herself in New York? Haley asked, her voice tight with worry. Zoe, Jesse, and I have been calling her, but we're too scared to ask about anything serious. We don't want her to break down with no one there to comfort her. We video chatted with her at lunch, and she seemed okay, but her eyes were all red, even though she was smiling. We could all tell she was just putting on a brave face for us. Leo winced, feeling a bit awkward. He marveled at their ability to read so much into so little. Isabelle's eyes were red because she'd been working late and hadn't slept well, not because she was on the verge of a breakdown. They were completely overthinking it. To ease their minds, he explained, don't worry too much. Isabelle is a lot stronger than you three think. You should know, she's the one who brought in UL Investments. Everything you've been seeing about Thornton Industries lately, that's all her doing. Leo, are you just saying that to make us feel better? Jessie Chow asked, her eyes wide. We looked up UL Investments. They're a top-tier British investment firm backed by a massive conglomerate. Even if Isabelle inherited her dad's business sense, there's no way she could have landed a partner that powerful in such a short time. Leo gave a weary smile. The thing is, she did. To be honest, I'm still trying to figure out how she pulled it off. She'll be back in a few days. You can ask her then. He paused, another thought occurring to him. By the way, remember how you guys always saw her reading and watching online courses in your room last semester? If you look at her desk now, you'll see that none of those books are for our classes. They're probably all on corporate management and resource integration. A collective gasp went through the three girls. They stared at him, stunned, their reaction mirroring his own when he'd first found out. Finally, the worry in Haley's eyes faded. If that's true, that's amazing, she said quietly. But the three of us have decided. We're flying to New York on Monday to see her. No matter how capable she is, she shouldn't be alone right now. And we get why you're not there. We figured she must have asked you not to come. Otherwise, you would have been the first one on a plane. We all see how much you care about her. Okay, Leo said after a moment. Flights to New York are expensive. Let me cover them for you. Before Haley could respond, Zoe Chong cut in. No need. Leo was taken aback by their fierce loyalty. He looked at the three determined faces before him and finally nodded, saying no more. After they left, Rex sighed wistfully. Man, looks like Isabelle's as tight with her roommates as we are with ours. Makes me wonder, if I ever got in that kind of trouble, would you three come all the way to West Virginia to see me? Leo scoffed. Of course. When the son is in trouble, how could the godfather not show up? I get to meet my brother-in-law. Brother-in-law? Your dad. What the Leo? I'll F. Your mom and the disappearing neighbor. As they ate, the TV mounted on the dining hall wall began replaying the latest campus interview segment. It was Leo's episode. Honestly, at first, I just wanted to make some spending money. I never thought it would turn into a real business. As for how far Starfall can go in the future, that's a hard question to answer because Starfall has always been running, not walking. I've never thought of myself as particularly good-looking or talented. I just got lucky. Listening to his own answers, Rex's face turned green. Even though he'd already accepted Leo as his godfather and pledged his undying loyalty, watching him be so incredibly smug in front of so many people still made his facial muscles twitch. "Oh, my God, I can't take it," he finally burst out. "Leo, how can you be so full of yourself? And you do it with such class. Tell me the truth. Did Jocelyn Xiao give you the questions beforehand? There's no way you came up with answers that's smooth on the spot." Rex was dizzy from the sheer force of the flex. He wished he could be on TV, saying things that cool. Leo calmly took a sip of his soup. "She did give me a template of the questions, but the answers were all off the cuff. No way. I don't believe you came up with lines that slick in an instant." Leo just shrugged and grinned. "My son, this level of coolness is something I was born with. Study hard. If you can achieve even half my level, you won't get flexed on so often." As the four guys from room 415 were finishing their meal, Leo spotted their freshman advisor, Mr. Dean Campbell, taking his tray to the return counter. "Hey, Mr. Campbell," Leo called out. The other three snapped to attention, saw him, and quickly echoed the greeting. "Hey, Mr. Campbell." "Hello, sir." Mr. Campbell stopped and turned. When he saw it was Leo, his normally stern expression immediately softened into one of genuine admiration. "Well, Leo, eating in the dining hall? I figured with all the money you're making now, you'd be ordering takeout or eating off campus. The food here can't compare to a real restaurant." Leo smiled. "Don't tease me, sir. You're still eating here. I'm not at a level where I can eat out every night. Besides, it's nice to just hang out with my roommates here." "All right. These three are your roommates? I remember some of you. Rex Gao, Felix Fong, and, right, Ned and Yo." Mr. Campbell snapped his fingers, a smile spreading across his face as he looked at the others. Not just Rex and the guys, but even Leo was surprised that Mr. Campbell remembered all their names. It was common knowledge that university advisors managed several classes, sometimes more than a dozen. Besides the class reps, they rarely remembered individual students. Leo was memorable for obvious reasons, but Rex, Felix, and Ned were, by their own admission, completely unremarkable. Seeing their shocked faces, Mr. Campbell chuckled. "Dean Wong needed Leo's student file, so when I was pulling it up, I saw all of your names and just happened to remember them." He then looked at Rex. "Rex, didn't you fail class last semester? The makeup exam is next Saturday. I'll ask Professor Leong for a list of the key topics to focus on. You should study up. You can't fail again." Rex's eyes went wide, his mouth hanging open in disbelief. He wasn't an idiot. Mr. Campbell wasn't talking about key topics. He was basically offering him the answer key. The scope of a makeup exam was the same as the original. There was no other reason to single out topics. It was clear Mr. Campbell was giving him a leg up. "Thank you, sir," Rex exclaimed, nodding vigorously. It dawned on all of them at that moment. Mr. Campbell was doing this for one reason and one reason only, because Rex was Leo's roommate. Sure enough, Mr. Campbell waved off Rex's thanks and addressed the other three. "You all know Leo is juggling his classes and his work at Starfall every day, so I expect you guys to help him out in the dorm. When he's resting, keep it down. If he forgets to submit an assignment or misses some notes, you help him out. As I said on the first day of class, college is a mini-society. You help Leo now, and he won't forget you later. A little boost from him down the line will be worth more than any job you could find on your own. It might feel like you're sucking up, but you're roommates and friends. Friends help each other out. You get what I'm saying, right?" Rex, Felix, and Ned exchanged glances, then nodded slowly. "Yes, sir, we get it." Satisfied, Mr. Campbell smiled and turned his attention back to Leo. "Oh, by the way, Leo, I was going to call you about this, but since you're here, I'll just tell you now. The Provincial Department of Education is hosting a Crestview Student Innovators Conference to encourage student entrepreneurs from all the local universities to share their experiences. It's tomorrow at noon. There will be venture capitalists and CEOs from some of Crestview's top companies there. It's a great opportunity to get investment and network. You could also learn a thing or two from your peers." Leo thought for a moment, not immediately agreeing. Finally, he looked up. "Sir, is this conference mandatory?" "Not all. You have to meet certain criteria to even get an invitation. It's a formal event, not just for anyone with a startup. You need a letter of recommendation from a dean or higher." Leo understood immediately. Dean Janet Wong had probably passed the information to Mr. Campbell. She knew Starfall was already past the stage of needing this kind of conference. Attending wasn't for Leo's benefit. It was for the universities. It was a chance to show off their star student entrepreneur, to let everyone know that the most successful student startup in the city came from the University of Crestview. Considering his promise to Dean Wong and the fact that she was an old friend of Isabelle's mother, Leo didn't hesitate any longer. All right, I'll be there tomorrow at noon. I won't let you down, sir. Don't be a smartass. When you're famous, it's your achievement. At most, people will know you graduated from U of C. Nobody's going to know the name of your freshman advisor. Mr. Campbell joked. And since it's a formal event, you should dress the part. Suit, dress shoes, the whole deal. I assume you have that kind of gear by now. Leo blinked, rubbing his nose awkwardly. Actually, I don't. Mr. Campbell sighed. It's too late to buy one now. You're about the same build as my younger brother. He had a suit tailored last year. Come by my office tomorrow morning. You can wear that. Sir, I couldn't. It's fine. It's settled. You four finish up. I'm heading out. With a wave, Mr. Campbell left. After he was gone, Rex, who had been thoroughly put in his place, slumped in his chair, looking half dead. Damn it. I never thought I'd be living off Leo's connections. The advisor basically just said that because I'm Leo's roommate, I don't even have to worry about failing classes. He looked over at Leo with envy. And he was telling us to cover for you if you miss class for work. Is it something an advisor should be saying? Leo, I hate capitalists like you. Leo? Leaving the dining hall, Leo and his roommates headed back to the dorm. He had barely settled onto his desk chair when his phone chimed with an incoming video call. A video call, the sound nearly made him jump out of his seat. The only person he ever video chatted with was Isabelle. It had to be her. He scrambled over to the mirror, frantically wiping his mouth with the back of his hand, a greasy remnant of dinner. Once he confirmed his face was clean, he snatched his phone. Just as he thought. It was her. When the connection stabilized, he saw her face for the first time in 3 days. She was as beautiful as ever, her expression cool and composed, giving off an unapproachable, almost ethereal aura to anyone who didn't know her. Only Leo knew that beneath that icy exterior was a heart full of surprising warmth. Leo, have you eaten? She asked, her voice the first to break the silence. Yeah, just finished up at the dining hall with Rex and the guys. You. I had some wonton soup in Dad's office. Lester had to drive pretty far to get it. She tilted the camera down, showing him the half-empty container. A pang of sympathy hit him. It was almost 9 o'clock, and she was still at the office. He knew she'd probably be working until the early hours of the morning. But he also knew that telling her to rest would be pointless, so he switched to small talk. So, at dinner tonight, he recounted the evening's events, telling her about running into Haley Xia and her friends. The three of them are really worried about you. They were planning to fly out to New York in the next couple of days to see you. He knew they meant it as a surprise, but he also knew how packed Isabelle's schedule was. If they just showed up, she'd never be able to find the time to see them. So, he had to be the bad guy and spoil the secret. Hearing this, Isabelle's eyes grew misty. She was clearly moved. Understand, she whispered. When they come, I'll make time for them. I promise. Good. You could use a break, Leo said, trying to lighten the mood. When you get back in a couple of days, I'll finally take you to Prospect Point. I wanted to go on Friday, then Saturday, but then you had to leave for New York. He shifted topics again, steering away from anything too sentimental. You won't believe what Rex did tonight. He launched into the story of Rex's reaction to the interview on the dining hall TV and how Dean Campbell had asked him to attend the Crestview Student Innovators Conference the next day. Since he wasn't discussing anything private, he didn't lower his voice, and his roommates could hear everything. Rex, hearing his name being dragged through the mud again, grumbled from his bunk. Damn it, Leo. Give it a rest. Flexing on me at dinner wasn't enough? Now you're using me as a punchline for Isabelle? I've got a reputation to maintain. That talent manager position might be up for review, you know. Leo teased. Ahem. Godfather, please continue, Rex said, his tone shifting instantly. I hope Godmother is entertained. On the other end of the line, Isabelle let out a musical laugh. When she finally caught her breath, she said, Leo, if you're going to that conference tomorrow, you'll need a suit, right? I don't think you have one. All right. It's too late to buy a decent one now. Dean Campbell told me to stop by his office in the morning. He said his brother just had one custom-made last year, and we're about the same size, so he's letting me borrow it. Are you going to wear it? I don't really want to, Leo answered honestly. But this conference was Dean Wong's idea. I'll be representing CPI in front of every other college in Crestview, not to mention the state's education board. And for our school, I'm really representing Dean Wong. She's your mom's good friend and treats you like her own daughter. so I have to take this seriously. Looking the part will make her proud. Thank you, Leo, Isabelle said, her voice thick with emotion. They chatted for a little while longer until Leo heard Lester's voice in the background. He knew her break was over. After a few quick words of encouragement, he reluctantly ended the call. In New York, at the chairman's office of Thornton Industries, Isabelle held her phone, a wistful expression on her face. She glanced at the framed photo on her desk, the one of her and Leo, taken on the day of their high school graduation pictures. Her eyes filled with a longing that spanned the hundreds of miles between them. After a moment of silence, she turned to Lester. You can bring me the files now. Miss Thornton, perhaps you should go home and rest early tonight? You've been working until 3 or 4 in the morning these past few days and waking up so early. You're getting less than 6 hours of sleep. Isabelle shook her head slightly. It's okay. I can handle it. She paused, then continued. Lester, I need you to arrange for a tailor in Crestview. Have them create a custom suit based on Leo's measurements overnight. It needs to be delivered to his school tomorrow morning. Of course, miss. And Isabelle hesitated for a second. Then a radiant smile lit up her face. And book me a flight back to Crestview for tomorrow. Lester froze. Miss, these next 2 days are critical for the company and for your father. But I miss Leo. Monday morning, Leo was up at the crack of dawn. Since he was attending the Crestview Student Innovators Conference, he asked his roommates to cover for him in his Ada M class, promising to file the official absence request later. As Leo meticulously styled his hair in the mirror, Rex watched with envy. If I'd known starting a business in college meant you get to go to cool events like this, I would have launched something myself. A conference like this is a prime spot for flexing. Damn, I really miss an opportunity. Felix deadpanned from his desk. Forget it, Rex. Anywhere Leo is, you'll just be watching him flex. You're not on his level. You just get shown up. Shut it, phone. Rex shot back. My Ada M class is already making me miserable. Don't make me think the world is a completely hopeless place. Leo chuckled, then left the dorm and headed for Dean Campbell's office. He had just stepped out of the building when he got a text. Leo, I've already approved your absence for your Ada M and sent a note to your professor. Just come straight to my office. I brought my brother's suit with me. Leo quickened his pace. 15 minutes later, he was knocking on the office door. Come on in, Leo, Dean Campbell said with a smile. Perfect timing. The other advisors are out right now, so you can change in here. I think this will be a great fit. He placed an envelope on the desk. This is the invitation to the conference from Dean Wong. Don't forget to take it with you. Okay, thanks. Leo nodded, reaching for the suit bag Dean Campbell was holding out. Just as his fingers were about to touch the fabric, his phone vibrated in his pocket. 1 second, Mr. Campbell. I need to take this. Leo held up a hand, his expression shifting. It was barely 8 in the morning. A call this early usually meant something urgent. He pulled out his phone and was surprised to see an unknown number. He hesitated for a moment before answering. Hello, who is this? Mr. Yeager. Leo was momentarily baffled. In real life, the only person who called him, that was Lester. But the voice on the other end was much younger. It definitely wasn't him. Before he could ask who was calling, the man spoke again, his tone even more respectful than before. Mr. Yeager, my name is Quinn Shaw. I'm the head butler at the Thornton estate. I'm calling on behalf of Miss Thornton to deliver a custom suit for you. Are you on campus at the moment? What? Isabelle had a suit made for me. Leo's voice was filled with astonishment. Last night, he'd only mentioned the conference in passing. He never imagined she would go to the trouble of having a suit made for him overnight. Yes, Mr. Yeager. I've just arrived at the main entrance of your university. You can come out to change whenever you're ready. Miss Thornton also instructed me to drive you to your destination. Oh, okay. Give me 10 minutes. Very good, sir. After ending the call, Leo looked at Dean Campbell. He thought for a moment before saying apologetically, Mr. Campbell, I don't think I can wear the suit you brought for me today. Why not? Does it not fit? You should at least try it on first, the dean said, looking puzzled. Leo shook his head and explained, my girlfriend had a suit custom made for me. Besides, this one is your brother's. I'd feel terrible if I accidentally stained or tore it. It would be hard for you to explain. I see. Dean Campbell sighed. Well, I won't force you. As long as you show up to the conference in a proper suit, that's all that matters. It doesn't matter who gave it to you. He put the suit down and picked up the invitation from the desk, handing it to Leo. He then added with a knowing look, however, the fact that your girlfriend gave it to you, that's different. This is your first suit, and a young man's first suit is a very meaningful thing. I'm sure your girlfriend knows that, which is why she spared no expense to have one made for you overnight. He paused, a nostalgic look on his face. You know, my wife saved up for a long time to secretly have a suit made for me. She gave it to me on my 24th birthday. I almost cried. In that moment, I knew she was the one. I proposed to her the very next day. Leo's mouth fell slightly open. He'd never known about the significance of a man's first suit. Hearing it from his advisor, his heart swelled with a warmth that spread through his entire body. Isabelle always managed to get the little things, the tiny details of life, so perfectly right. Sometimes he wondered if he'd saved the world in a past life to deserve someone as perfect as her. All right, you should get going, Dean Campbell said, snapping him out of his thoughts. It's chilly out this morning. Don't keep her waiting. Right. Leo didn't bother explaining that Isabelle wasn't there in person. He simply took the invitation, nodded his thanks, and hurried towards the university gate. As he approached, he saw a black Cadillac Escalade parked by the curb. Standing beside, it was a middle-aged man in a formal suit. Leo recognized P14.She, the head butler. He'd seen him a few times during his visits to the Thornton estate. Seeing Leo approach, Quentin opened the rear door. Mr. Yeager, the suit is in the car. Miss Thornton had the designers work through the night to tailor it to your measurements. Thanks. Leo glanced at the suit hanging inside the vehicle. He could almost picture Isabelle from the night before, juggling her stressful work while coordinating with designers to get every detail perfect for him. Suddenly, a powerful idea struck him. If she had given him his first suit, shouldn't he give her something equally meaningful? Her first pair of high heels. He narrowed his eyes, making a decision on the spot. After the conference today, he would go find a perfect pair for her. He'd give them her the next time she came back to Crestview. After he got in the car, Quentin turned from the driver's seat with a smile. Mr. Yeager, Miss Thornton asked me to relay a message to you. What is it? Quentin cleared his throat. She said, this suit is for the man you are, and the man you'll become. Go get him, Leo. Leo's heart stirred, the softest part of him feeling like it was melting away. He could almost see her, sometime in the not-so-distant future, walking toward him down an aisle. We've arrived, Mr. Yeager. Quentin pulled the Escalade to a stop by the curb. Leo nodded and looked out the window. The Crestview Student Innovators Conference was being held at a hotel in the city center. He could see students pulling up in their cars, handing their keys to the valet. It was clear they were all here for the same event. He wasn't surprised they were driving cars in the $30,000 to $40,000 range. The landscape of college startups had changed. Years ago, it was usually students from disadvantaged backgrounds who took the risk. Now, it was often kids from well-off families, so a decent car was nothing unusual. An entrepreneur from his kind of background was a rarity. Having already changed into the suit Isabelle had sent, Leo adjusted his tie and stepped out of the car. Quentin said, I'll be waiting in the parking garage, sir. Please call me whenever you're finished. I'll take you back to campus. Don't worry about it. You can go. I'll just grab an Uber when it's over. Leo didn't want to be a bother. Quentin smiled politely. Escorting you is my business for the day, sir. Per Miss Thornton's instructions. All right, then. I'll call you when I'm done. Leo shook his head with a helpless smile and walked toward the hotel entrance. As he entered the lobby, a hostess greeted him warmly. Good morning, sir. Do you have a reservation? I'm here for the Crestview Student Innovators Conference. Of course, sir. The ballroom is on the 10th floor. Please follow me. The hostess led him toward the elevators. While they were waiting, another staff member arrived with 4 other college-age students. A young man and woman among them were whispering to each other. Leo caught the words startup and conference. They were probably from the same school, though they didn't seem like a couple. Once they were inside the elevator and the lobby noise faded, Leo could clearly hear their conversation. The guy said, Jenna, it looks like these other 3 are here for the conference too. Should we introduce ourselves? The girl, Jenna, seemed a bit shy, but clearly wanted a network. She blushed and mumbled, You go first. The guy shrugged and addressed Leo and the other 2 men directly. Hey, everyone. I'm Gabe Tion from Westgate Tech. I'm a junior. I started my own social media studio. We make scripted videos. You've probably seen our stuff on TikTok. Seeing her partner take the lead, Jenna gathered her courage. Hi, I'm Jenna Zhang. I'm also a junior at Westgate Tech. My roommates and I started an online shop for graphic design, ads, posters, logos. The other 2 men looked surprised by the direct approach, but quickly recovered and introduced themselves. I'm Nolan Kong, a sophomore at Crestview State. My project isn't as impressive as yours. I just love gaming, so I pooled some resources and started an online game boosting service. My name is Ifunvain. I'm a senior at Channing University. I built a website for trading used textbooks. Listening to them, Leo couldn't help but feel a little underwhelmed. Besides Gabe's social media studio, which was in the same field as his, the other 3 projects were pretty dated. Evan's used book site, in particular, was a money pit. Countless people had tried that idea and failed before their app even launched due to lack of funding. It suddenly dawned on him why Dean Wong had insisted he come. He didn't have to do anything. Just by showing up, being from CPI, and having his project known, he would stand out. It wasn't that he was so brilliant. It was that the competition made him look good. While he was lost in thought, Gabe and the others turned their attention to him. "All right, buddy, your turn," Gabe said with a grin. "Which school are you from? What's your project?" With all four of them looking at him, Leo couldn't refuse. I'm from CPI," he said humbly. "Just a freshman. My project is similar to yours, Gabe. Social media." "CPI?" Nolan asked. "There are a few colleges with CPI in the name. Are you at Crestview Polytechnic Institute, or Crestview Professional Institute, or Crestview Community College?" Before Leo could answer, Gabe chuckled. "It's got to be Crestview Community, right? If he was at the real CPI, he'd say the Polytechnic Institute. Why would you let people get it twisted when your school is that good? Let's be real, it's a community college. Right, bro?" Ding. The elevator arrived, and the doors slid open. Leo didn't have time to explain, so he just nodded and murmured, "You got it, Gabe." "Hey, no worries," Gabe said, slinging an arm around Leo's shoulders as they walked out. "So what if you're at a community college and we're from top-tier schools? We're all entrepreneurs here. We can still network." He then immediately turned his attention to Nolan. "So, Nolan, what kind of games does your studio focus on? I'll have my guys send some business your way." Watching Gabe's performance, Leo thought to himself, is it a requirement for guys with the surname Gao to love flexing this much? He smiled wryly and followed them toward the ballroom. Just then, a familiar female voice called out from beside him. "My hero. Oh, thank goodness. I was worried you'd think this conference was beneath you and Starfall and decide not to come. I'm so glad you're here." Leo turned to see Nina Wei. Her face lit up with a delighted surprise. She was wearing a tailored white blazer that accentuated her figure, and her long hair, usually worn down, was pulled back into a high ponytail. A few loose strands framed her face, making her look both professional and youthful. It was clear she'd put a lot of effort into her appearance. Most importantly, her little sidekick, Evan, was nowhere in sight. Leo wasn't surprised to see her. Jocelyn had mentioned Nina's on-campus 3D modeling and printing startup. Apparently, her production, sales, and marketing were all well established, and with her extensive network at school, getting a recommendation for the conference would have been easy. Being called "my hero" in public made him cringe. Luckily, Gabe and his group were already ahead of them and hadn't noticed. "Ahem," Leo cleared his throat. "You should probably just call me by my name. There are a lot of people around, and that's a little awkward." "So what? What I call you is none of their business," Nina said, flicking her ponytail dismissively. She glanced at Gabe's group up ahead. "Do you know them?" "Nope. We just share an elevator. They suggested we introduce ourselves, so we chatted for a minute." "Makes sense. Knowing you, you probably wouldn't want to hang out with Gabe anyway. He's so arrogant and full of himself. It's obnoxious." Leo raised an eyebrow. "You know him?" "He's my cousin," Nina said flatly. "That's a coincidence. Does everyone in your family's younger generation have the entrepreneurial bug?" "Pretty much. Our family has been in business since before the Republic was even a thing. We grew up hearing about it, so we all think we can go out and do better than our parents." "I see," Leo said, letting the conversation die. Nina didn't seem to mind. She changed the subject and continued chattering away as she walked beside him. "You know my startup is in 3D printing, right? If Starfall ever needs any props, just let me know. I'll provide them for free." "And what do you think is the biggest weakness in my business model right now?" My hero, my hero." Leo finally had enough. He stopped walking inside. "Nina, I seem to recall you being a lot less talkative when we first met." Nina bit her lip, a blush finally creeping on her cheeks. "Well, that was because I didn't know you then. And now that you do, you also know I have a girlfriend. Shouldn't you be keeping some distance? When you follow me around like this, people might get the wrong idea. I don't want that getting back to my girlfriend and causing unnecessary problems between us." Nina looked up, her eyes meeting his. For a long moment, disappointment and envy flickered across her face. But just as quickly, it was replaced by admiration. She nodded firmly. "You're right. I'll go talk to some other people. If you need anything, just let me know. Causing a misunderstanding with your girlfriend would be wrong. I'm not the kind of person who tries to break up a happy couple. I was out of line today." "Okay," Leo said simply. Her reasonable response didn't change his opinion of her. There were too many girls who played the innocent, understanding card. He couldn't tell if Nina was being genuine or just trying to win his favor. Since he couldn't be sure, he stuck to one principle. Better to be safe than sorry. He would never give Isabelle, the queen of jealousy, a reason to get upset. The ballroom was filled with college students, but everyone was dressed in suits and ties, wearing professional smiles. The conference hadn't officially started, so most were mingling, grabbing desserts and fruit from the buffet tables. Leo had no interest in networking. Starfall's size and scope were already beyond what a typical student startup could achieve. He had little to learn from them. So, having rushed out without breakfast, he stood by a table and started demolishing the platters of fruit and pastries, a stark contrast to the schmoozing masses around him. Just as he was reaching for another mini eclair, a staff member approached him. "Excuse me, are you Mr. Leo Yeager?" Leo nodded, then said instinctively, "This is a buffet, right? The food's free." The staffer blinked, clearly thrown off. "Why, yes, sir. It's complimentary. So if you're not here to charge me, what can I do for you?" The staffer finally understood. "Oh, no, sir. My apologies. The organizers have asked me to inform you that you will be invited on stage later to give a speech about your experiences and offer some advice on student entrepreneurship." "Okay, got it." Leo wasn't surprised. Starfall was undoubtedly the most successful venture at the conference. It made sense they'd want him to speak. The staffer smiled and left. Just as Leo was about to resume his feast, Gabe, Jenna, and the others walked over. Nolan looked at him with a hint of reproach. "Dude, you disappeared on us after we got off the elevator." Gabe was suggesting we go find that legendary entrepreneur, Leo Yeager from Starfall Media. You know Starfall, right? They're the biggest name in the Crestview student startup scene. That guy must be a genius. We turned around and you were gone. We were looking all over for you. We came up together. We should stick together. With Gabe leading us, maybe we could have gotten some tips from the Starfall guy. It would have been especially helpful for you and Gabe, since you're both in social media. "Oh, sorry about that," Leo said casually. "I ran into a friend and got separated." "Right," Nolan said, then pointed. "We saw that staffer talking to you just now. What did he want?" Before Leo could answer, Gabe jumped in. "What else? He probably saw this guy just standing here eating, not mingling like everyone else, and thought he was a crasher. It's all good as long as you cleared it up. Anyway, bro, in the elevator you just told us your school and project. You never told us your name." "Yeah, what's your name?" Jenna and Evan asked, their curiosity piqued. "Just call me Leo," he said coolly, not offering his last name. He knew if he revealed his full identity, Nolan and Gabe would latch onto him for the rest of the day. Besides, he wasn't some magnanimous hero from a movie. Gabe had looked down on him twice already. Why should he offer him advice? Get lost. As expected, he saw a flash of contempt in Gabe's eyes. But Gabe, possessing at least a shred of politeness, masked it with a grin. "You're also named Leo, and you're also in social media. Funny how you and the big shot Leo Yeager from Starfall Media are both from the Yeager family, but there's such a huge difference." He clapped Leo on the shoulder. "Give me your contact info later. I'll give you some pointers on social media operations and growth. You call me Gabe? I gotta make it worth your while." Leo just smiled. "Thanks, Gabe. You're the man." As they were talking, Gabe's eyes lit up, and he waved at someone across the room. Nina. Nina, who was deep in conversation, turned at the sound of her name. Her brow furrowed when she saw it was her cousin, and she looked reluctant to come over. But then she spotted Leo standing with them, and her expression brightened immediately. She walked over. Before she could speak, Gabe started the introductions. "This is my cousin, Nina Wei. She's a freshman at CPI, and she started a 3D printing project there." He then introduced Nolan, Jenna, and Evan. When he got to Leo, he was dismissive. "And this is Leo, same age as you. Nina, also a freshman. But he's at Crestview Community. He's in social media, like me." "What?" Nina's face was a mask of surprise. She shot a confused look at Leo, clearly wondering how he'd ended up a community college student. Leo felt her gaze and gave a subtle shake of his head. Nina, quick on the uptake, caught his meaning and kept quiet. But Gabe misinterpreted her confusion. "Nina, don't look down on him just because he's at a community college. He's got guts to start a new media business like me." I know him," Nina cut in. Gabe blinked, surprised they knew each other. After a brief pause, he laughed. "Oh, you two know each other, no wonder. Well, then I won't waste my breath. The conference is about to start. Let's go find some seats." As the group headed into the main hall, Nina slowed her pace to walk with Leo at the back. "My hero," she whispered. "Why didn't you tell them who you are?" "Lazy," Leo said, offering a single word. Nina's eyes widened in adoration. "You're so cool and modest, right?" They all took their seats in a massive conference hall. Soon, the host took the stage and outlined the day's agenda. Then, to a round of applause, the renowned student entrepreneurship advisor, Professor Franklin Thorne, began his keynote speech. For Gabe and the others, The lecture was probably full of valuable insights. For Leo, it was like listening to a motivational podcast filled with basic knowledge he already knew. Bored, he pulled out his phone and texted Isabelle. Leo, the suit you sent is amazing. I look sharp. He expected he wouldn't get a reply until afternoon, but his phone buzzed almost immediately. Isabelle, has anyone asked for your number at the conference? Leo, do you want them to? Isabelle didn't answer his question directly. Instead, she sent a winking emoji. Isabelle, winking face, if anyone does, I'll have Lester find them and tell them better luck next life. Leo's eye twitched. A chill ran down his spine. Leo, hey now, we live in a society governed by laws. Anyway, why are you up so early? You must have worked late again. Isabelle, not too late. But today is going to be busy. Leo, okay, just make sure you eat on time. I have a surprise for you when you get back to Crestview. Isabelle, funny, I have a surprise for you too. His heart skipped a beat. He was about to ask what it was when Gabe nudged him sharply in the ribs. Leo, Professor Thorne is dropping serious knowledge up there. Why are you on your phone? Can't you pay attention? He hissed. Leo, caught off guard, mumbled, sorry, Gabe. My girlfriend texted. It would be rude not to reply. TCH, can't you get your priorities straight? Gabe said, shaking his head in disappointment. Whatever. The professor is finishing up. Next up is Leo Yeager from Starfall Media. He's definitely going to focus on social media entrepreneurship. This time, put your phone away and listen. Huh, already? Leo was surprised. He muttered to himself, why am I up so soon? On stage, Professor Thorne had finished his speech. The female host stepped up to the microphone. And now, please welcome to the stage from Crestview Polytechnic Institute, Mr. Leo Yeager, to share his entrepreneurial journey. The hall erupted in thunderous applause. Gabe clapped enthusiastically, his face glowing with excitement. Leo, look, he's about to come on. This time, you better not be on your phone. You hear me? Hey, Leo, why are you standing up? Where are you going? Gabe stared, utterly bewildered, as Leo rose from his seat. Leo just smiled at him. Gotta go, Gabe. That's my cue. Listen closely, okay? The realization hit Gabe like a physical blow. His body went rigid, his pupils shrinking to pinpricks. Still in disbelief, he stammered. What are you going on stage for? You heard the host. She asked for Leo Yeager to share his experience. Gabe's breath hitched. What is your full name? Leo Yeager. Holy crap. Under the watchful eyes of the entire room, and before the stunned gazes of Gabe, Jenna, Nolan, and Evan, Leo walked toward the stage. Dressed in a suit Isabelle had tailored for him, his steps were steady and confident. His back seemed to grow taller, his silhouette sharper. Gabe stared after him, his jaw hanging open in a perfect O. He couldn't believe that the unassuming guy they'd met in the elevator was the Leo Yeager. Jenna and the others, who had been whispering among themselves, fell silent. They leaned forward, their eyes locked on Leo, a mixture of shock and confusion on their faces. It wasn't until Leo reached the stage and turned to face the audience that they finally snapped out of it. Nolan and Jenna turned to the dumbstruck Gabe simultaneously. Gabe, what the Gabe? How is he? Gabe swallowed hard, his expression a mess. He said he's Leo Yeager. The confirmation sent another wave of shock through their small group. Gabe's mind finally caught up, and a highlight reel of his own word from the past few hours began to play in his head. It's got to be Crestview Community, right? If he was at the real CPI. Right, bro? Funny how you and the big shot Leo Yeager from Starfall Media are both from the Yeager family. But there's such a huge difference. Give me your contact info later. I'll give you some pointers on social media operations and growth. And this is Leo. He's at Crestview Community. He's in social media, like me. Leo, Professor Thorne is dropping serious knowledge up there. Why are you on your phone? Can't you pay attention? TCH, can't you get your priorities straight? Next up is Leo Yeager from Starfall Media. This time, put your phone away and listen. As the memories flooded back, a deep crimson blush spread across Gabe's face. He tugged at his collar, unbuttoning the top button of his shirt. Huh, it's so damn hot in here. Sweat beaded on his forehead, and his scalp tingled with an unbearable itch of embarrassment. So, when Leo said he was from CPI in the elevator, he meant the real CPI? He wasn't trying to hide it. He was being humble. So, he wasn't listening to the professor because he didn't need to. He wasn't being disrespectful. He was a master listening to a beginner's lecture. And he, Gabe Tion, had tried to teach him. This wasn't just embarrassing. This was idiotic. Finally, he turned a pleading gaze to Nina. Nina, he said, his voice strained. You and Leo go to the same school. You knew each other this whole time, right? Yup, Nina replied, her tone flat. Gabe forced a pained smile. Then why didn't you tell me? I don't know why he didn't correct you, Nina said with a sneer, but I can guess. You probably started running your mouth the second you met him, just like you always do. You didn't even give him a chance to introduce himself properly. If you didn't care enough to find out, why should I go out of my way to tell you? The last thing I want to do is annoy my hero. Gabe's face turned a shade of green. He opened his mouth, but no words came out. She was right. If he hadn't been so quick to judge Leo in the elevator, none of this would have happened. Nolan, Jenna, and Evan overheard Nina's takedown, and their own faces flushed with awkwardness. For the next few minutes, none of them spoke, avoiding each other's eyes. Nina watched them squirm, a feeling of deep satisfaction washing over her. She usually hated guys who played the undercover boss card just to get a rise out of people. But she wasn't annoyed with Leo at all. He hadn't done it on purpose. And even if he had, it was unbelievably cool. Her eyes, sparkling, drifted back to the stage where Leo was now speaking eloquently. A blush crept on her cheeks. He's so handsome. And that's the experience my partners and I have gained in growing Starfall Studios into what is now Starfall Media. Thank you. Leo finished his speech and walked off the stage to another round of thunderous applause. When he returned to his seat, the way Gabe and the others looked at him had completely changed. This time, no one dared to speak first. Leo broke the silence with a slight smile. So, Gabe, how is it? Think any of that will be helpful for your studio? Gabe's face went from red to purple. Leo, he stammered, then stopped, realizing he didn't know what to call him. Leo seemed too informal now. Mr. Yeager was too much. Seeing his struggle, Leo chuckled. It's fine. Just call me Leo. Oh, okay, Leo. Gabe felt worse than if he'd eaten dirt. He had been so excited to get advice from the founder of Starfall Media. But finding out that founder was years younger than him was a massive blow to his ego. Leo just waved a hand, signaling it was no big deal, and then went back to his phone to text Isabelle. That idiot Gabe had interrupted him earlier. He'd pay for that. Or, as Isabelle would say, Gabe was a bad man. After the conference sessions, the organizers provided lunch in a large dining room. The afternoon was a whirlwind of more meetings, this time with local business leaders and minor executives who had been invited. They offered critiques and advice on various student projects within their fields of expertise. For the most promising startups, there was even a chance to secure on-the-spot investment. It wasn't that these executives were particularly passionate about fostering student entrepreneurship. It was a matter of optics. Once a company reached a certain size, it had to engage with local government. If they were making a fortune and not giving a small fraction back through philanthropy or community support, they'd be criticized. Of course, capitalists rarely cared about gossip, but when all their competitors were doing it, not participating made them stand out in a bad way. The ones who gave back might not be remembered, but the ones who didn't certainly would be. Leo smirked, thinking about how his donation drive in the Ozarks, which he had initially planned as a potential PR shield for Starfall's future, had unintentionally landed him in the Moral Enterprise Club. The entire afternoon, Leo was stuck at the conference. Unlike the other students who were desperately networking and pitching to investors, he was being shuttled around by the organizers to meet with various executives. If Starfall hadn't already closed its last funding round, he probably could have walked away with a hefty investment today. TCH, why couldn't they have held this conference sooner? If I'd known you could land an investment just by giving a speech and having dinner with some bigwigs, I wouldn't have bothered with all those late nights writing business plans and hunting down contacts. At 5:30, the conference finally concluded. Leo, conference is over. Heading back to campus. He sent the text to Isabelle. She had messaged him an hour ago to say she was getting busy, and he hadn't heard from her since. He felt a pang of disappointment, though he knew she was working. That was the curse of being in love. Even when you knew the reason, the silence still stung. He pressed the elevator button, ready to find Quentin and head back, when Nolan caught up to him. Leo, a few of us are going out for dinner tonight. You should come. I'm younger than you. You don't have to call me bro or anything. Nolan grinned. It's not about age, it's about status. You're the top dog among all of us here. It's a sign of respect. All right, fine, but you guys go ahead. I'm going to pass. Leo had no interest in making small talk with them all night. Besides, he wanted to use the evening to buy Isabelle that pair of high heels. Nolan persisted. Come on, man. I already booked a place. We all came up in the elevator together. Let's just grab a meal and chat. Leo, you should come. Jenna, the shy girl, had come over, blushing as she extended the invitation. Behind her stood Gabe, Evan, Nina, and a couple of other students they'd met that afternoon. Seeing the united front, Leo felt he couldn't refuse. He sighed. Okay, fine, but I have to take care of something first. Just text me the location, and I'll head over when I'm done. Awesome. Nolan nodded eagerly, taking the opportunity to exchange contact information. Seeing this, the others quickly followed suit. Leo didn't refuse, holding out his phone for them to scan his QR code. You never knew. While their projects were small now, one of them could be a major player in a few years. It was always good to have connections. After leaving the hotel, Leo immediately contacted Quentin. A few minutes later, the Escalade appeared. Sorry about that, Quentin, Leo said apologetically. I thought the conference would just be a morning thing. I didn't mean to make you wait in the garage for hours. Not at all, Mr. Yeager. Waiting for you is my job. It's no trouble. Quentin paused. Shall I take you back to campus now? Not just yet. I'll give you an address. I need to buy something. I have a dinner thing tonight, and I'll head back to school after that. Quentin's expression flickered for a split second before he smiled smoothly. Very good, sir. I'll take you there right away. Once in the car, Leo opened his phone and started searching. What to know when buying your girlfriend her first pair of high heels. How to choose a woman's first pair of high heels. Luxury high heel brands. At Crestview International Airport, Isabelle and Lester stepped off the plane. As they boarded the shuttle to the terminal, Isabelle glanced at her phone. She had seen all of Leo's messages but had deliberately chosen not to reply. She wanted to surprise him. Reading his texts, where he reported every little detail of his day, a sweet smile spread across her face. Lester saw it and couldn't help but smile too. He hadn't seen her smile like that once during their entire trip to New York. Lester, she said after putting her phone away, is Quentin driving Leo back to campus now? He just called. He said Mr. Yeager asked to be taken to a shopping mall. He also mentioned a dinner engagement at the Pinnacle and that he might be returning to campus late. Isabelle pursed her lips. Then let's go straight to the parking lot at the Pinnacle and find Quentin. When Leo gets in the car after dinner, he'll see me. He'll never expect it. Of course, miss, Lester nodded. His mind drifted back years ago to when Catherine and Richard had just gotten married. Catherine used to plan little surprises for her husband just like this. Catherine, he thought, your daughter. She's so much like you. That will be $1,285, sir. You can scan me, Leo said, holding out his phone. After the payment went through, the sales associate beautifully boxed and bagged the pair of white high heels he had chosen. It was the most he had ever spent on a single wearable item, but he didn't feel a shred of regret. It was for Isabelle, and, come to think of it, it was his first real gift to her as her boyfriend. He felt a little ashamed that it had taken him this long. He took the elegant shopping bag from the associate and left the store. He had Quentin drive him to the restaurant. Half an hour later, he arrived at the Pinnacle. Following the room number Nolan had texted him, he easily found his way. Coincidentally, it was the exact same private dining room Chris Shing had booked for the student government dinner. Leo, you're here. We were all waiting for you. Come on, sit. As soon as he opened the door, Nolan rushed over to greet him enthusiastically. Everyone else at the table stood up, a clear sign of their newfound respect. The formality made Leo a little uncomfortable. Hey, you guys don't have to be so formal with me. Just treat me like a regular classmate. Despite his words, they remained deferential, treating him like a VIP. Leo understood. These were all entrepreneurs. They were already well-versed in the unspoken rules of business dinners. Once everyone was seated, Nolan, as the host, stood up and gave a short, passionate toast. The room echoed with the clinking of glasses as everyone raised their drinks to Leo. He smiled, a bit sheepishly, and took a small sip. The conversation naturally turned to their respective startups. Leo mostly ate, barely participating. When someone asked him a direct question, he answered politely, but his eyes kept darting to his phone, hoping for a reply from Isabelle. He must have checked it a dozen times, but the chat window remained unchanged. Because his mind was elsewhere, the dinner seemed to fly by. Before he knew it, everyone was a few drinks in, and the initial stiffness had melted away. The conversation broadened from startups to school life, then to corporations, and finally to finance and economics. Someone brought up Thornton Industries, which had been all over the news lately. Suddenly, the entire table was buzzing with discussion about the company's recent troubles. Richard Thornton is facing multiple charges. If they stick, he could get a life sentence. Yeah, if he's convicted, it'll be a huge blow to Thornton Industries. The company was founded right here in Crestview. It might not survive. I can't believe the chairman of such a massive corporation could end up like this. Nolan jumped in. I wouldn't be so sure. I heard from some of my family's contacts that even though Richard Thornton has been detained, his wife and daughter are keeping the company running. And you all heard about that huge investment from the UK firm, UL Investments, a few days ago, right? Rumor is one of them secured it. My uncle showed me a picture from a business meeting he attended the other day. I have to say, Thornton's daughter is stunning. I've never seen a girl that beautiful, prettier than most celebrities. Gabe, his face flushed from the alcohol, chimed in, funny you should say that. I've seen the Thornton heiress too. Nolan's right. She's an absolute goddess. But UL Investments was definitely brought in by his wife, Sharon Thornton. The daughter, Isabelle Thornton, is supposedly still in college. A college student pulling in a giant like UL? No way. Impossible. Hearing the conversation suddenly shift to Isabelle, Leo, who hadn't been paying attention, perked up. Gabe, he said, cutting in, don't you think that's a bit of a sweeping statement? You don't know the facts. How can you be so sure Isabelle Thornton wasn't capable of landing a major investor like UL? What do you mean I don't know the facts? Gabe, drunk and emboldened, raised his voice. He was already jealous of Leo for being younger and more successful, and this was his chance to one-up him. He let out a loud burp. I'll admit, my business skills aren't on your level. But when it comes to inside info on Thornton Industries, I guarantee you, I know more than you do, Leo. My family has business dealings with them. He pulled out his phone and waved it at the table. I wasn't going to show this because it's an invasion of her privacy. But since we're on the topic, and to prove my point to all of you, and to you, Leo, I'll make an exception. Take a look. See for yourselves the once-in-a-lifetime beauty of the Thornton heiress. He opened a photo and passed his phone around the table. As each person saw the picture of Isabelle, they let out gasps of admiration. Leo saw it too. It was a blurry screenshot, probably from video, but it was unmistakably Isabelle. She was in a business suit, seemingly speaking to a company director, exuding a cool, commanding presence that was entirely different from a girl he knew. When the phone reached Nina, she glanced at it, and her eyes went wide. Hiss, she drew a sharp breath, then shot her head up, staring at Leo in utter disbelief. Her mind was racing. That's his girlfriend. Why does his girlfriend look exactly like the Thornton heiress? Wait, she suddenly remembered the Maybach S680 that had picked him up after their last dinner. It wasn't that his girlfriend looked like the Thornton heiress. His girlfriend was the Thornton heiress. My hero is that, she started, her voice trembling with disbelief. Leo shot her a look, a clear signal to keep quiet. He then nonchalantly picked up his own phone from the table and slipped it into his jacket pocket, hiding the lock screen. A photo of him and Isabelle, their cheeks pressed together. Only then did he turn to Gabe and give him a thumbs up. All right, Gabe, you're the man. I admit it. You definitely know more about Thornton Industries than I do. Seeing Leo concede in front of everyone, Gabe grinned from ear to ear. The others at the table, now convinced of Gabe's superior connections, started looking at him with newfound respect, calling him Gabe with an almost reverential tone. Gabe soaked it all in, puffing out his chest. Leo, my startup might not be on your level, but when it comes to family background and inside information, I've got a slight edge. If you ever need an introduction to some industry execs or want to know the scoop on something, just hit me up. We ate at the same table, so I've got your back. He leaned in conspiratorially. And hey, if you have a crush on the Thornton heiress, I can probably get your contact info. Who knows? Maybe you two will hit it off. And I, Gabe Tion, will have played a part in it. Ah, thanks, man, Leo said, sipping his soda with a placid smile. You can get her contact info, right? And I can fly. He was even more full of himself than Rex. Jenna, who had been quiet most of the night, noticed Leo's dismissive tone. She gently tugged on Gabe's sleeve onto the table. Gabe, you're drunk. Tone it down. I'm not drunk. We're just getting started, he boomed. Jenna flushed and pulled her hand back, annoyed that he'd turned into a completely different person after a few drinks. She decided not to bother with him anymore. Gabe then launched into another series of boasts about his connections, dropping names of other local business families, including the owners of Chatter Tea, P14.She, and Nina Yi. Nina watched her cousin, sighed, and shook her head. He was being a total tool. At 9:30, the dinner wrapped up, and the group filed out of the Pinnacle. Gabe was swaying on his feet, but still chattering away, high on his own perceived status. As everyone was calling for their rides, Leo messaged Quentin. Leo, Gabe slurred, why don't you ride with me? My driver can take you and Nina back to campus. Nina had no desire to be associated with him. She shot him a cold look. No thanks. My driver is coming for me. My hero and I go to the same school, so we can ride back together. That's okay. I've already got a ride, Leo said, turning Nina down again. He remembered she tried to show off by offering him a ride last time they were here. This time, at least, her intentions seemed more practical. Gabe raised an eyebrow, his filter completely gone. Come on, my car's more comfortable. It's a six-figure car, you know? Leo, I know Starfall Media is doing well, but you just started out. Your car is probably, what, 40, 50 grand tops? My ride is way smoother. Leo shot a strange look at Nina, his expression saying everything. Is this a family trait? This obsession with giving people rides in your car? Nina's face burned with embarrassment. She kicked her cousin's shin in frustration, crossed her arms, and refused to speak to the idiot anymore. Just then, a black Cadillac Escalade pulled up in front of the restaurant. It was a high-end vehicle, the kind usually reserved for executives and the discreetly wealthy. Everyone turned to look, curious to see who was inside. Everyone except Leo. His brow furrowed. It was Quentin's car, but through the tinted windows, he could clearly see two figures in the back seat. Quentin was only supposed to be picking him up. Who else? He suddenly remembered Isabelle's text. I have a surprise for you two. His heart hammered against his ribs. Could it be? Quentin got out and opened the rear passenger door. A familiar figure stepped out, and for the first time all evening, a genuine smile spread across Leo's face. The cool, ethereal silhouette could only belong to one person. He was right. The surprise wasn't a thing. The surprise was her. Before Leo could move, a wave of astonishment rippled through the group beside him. Whoa, whoa. Am I drunk, or am I seeing things? Is that Isabelle Thornton? I don't think it's a hallucination, because I see her too. No mistake, that's her. She's even more beautiful in person than in the picture Gabe showed us. Holy crap, it's really her. Hearing the commotion, Gabe turned and saw her. At that exact moment, Isabelle looked in their direction. The instant she saw them, her cool composure vanished, replaced by a smile so radiant it could light up the entire city. She started walking toward them. Nolan was stunned. Gabe, does she know you? She's coming right for us. Huh? No, I just have her picture. We've never actually met. Gabe was just as confused. Why was she walking toward him? But he didn't have time to think. He quickly straightened his tie and stepped forward to greet her. But just as he was about to reach her, Isabelle broke into a light jog, running right past him. In front of everyone, she threw herself into Leo's arms. Leo, she breathed, her voice filled with longing. I miss you so much. The world seemed to stop. Jaws dropped. Everyone stared dumbfounded at Leo. Gabe, hearing Isabelle's words and seeing her wrapped around Leo, felt a violent shudder. That familiar, scalp-tingling embarrassment returned with a vengeance, instantly sobering him up. But clarity only brought a new wave of dizzying mortification as his own words from dinner replayed in his mind. I guarantee you, I know more than you do, Leo. My family has business dealings with them. Take a look. See for yourselves the once-in-a-lifetime beauty of the Thornton heiress. About a slight edge. If you have a crush on the Thornton heiress, I can probably get your contact info. Maybe you two will hit it off. And I, Gabe Tion, will have played a part in it. The more he remembered, the more his scalp burned. So he had spent the entire dinner bragging to Leo about how much he knew about Leo's own girlfriend. He had spent the evening trying to school Leo on the inner workings of his girlfriend's family company. Gabe desperately wished a sinkhole would open up and swallow him whole. Right now, however, no one was paying him any mind. All eyes were fixed on Leo and Isabelle. Leo felt the real, solid warmth of her in his arms, and his expression softened. He hugged her back, oblivious to the audience around them. I missed you too, he murmured. Every day. So this was your surprise? MHM. Isabelle hummed, squeezing him tighter, just 4 days apart, and her longing for him was palpable. Finally, the stunned onlookers began to recover. Holy, Leo's girlfriend is Richard Thornton's daughter. You gotta be kidding me. So at dinner, we were gossiping about Leo's girlfriend right in front of him. TCH, and Gabe was flexing the whole time about how much he knew. Honestly, I'm embarrassed for him. Nolan and Evan exchanged a look. Evan, this is the second time today that Leo has completely owned Gabe, isn't it? Evan swallowed hard. Yeah, seems like it. And both times, Leo didn't even try to call him out. Reality just did it for him. He tried to let Gabe save face, but then Isabelle shows up. Nina, who had stepped back when Isabelle appeared, overheard them and snorted. Gabe deserved it. He can't control his big mouth and loves showing off. Now his face is getting slapped by my hero and his girlfriend. Serve him right. She conveniently forgot that she had been on the receiving end of a similar public humbling by the same couple just a few months prior. Gabe, standing on the periphery, heard it all. His face grew even paler. This was beyond being flexed on. This was public execution. The silent clapback is always the deadliest. Fortunately, Leo didn't seem interested in rubbing it in. He just took Isabelle's hand and offered a small smile to the group. So, yeah, this is my girlfriend, Isabelle Thornton. I noticed you all were pretty interested in her family situation at dinner. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me. If I can answer, I will. He added pointedly. Gossip is rarely reliable. He gave a final nod. Well, that's it for me tonight. It was great meeting you all. I hope to see you at the next, bigger conference. Goodbye. With that, he led Isabelle toward the car. As they walked down the steps, Leo noticed Gabe still frozen in place. Gabe, he asked, why did you step forward like that a minute ago? Gabe's face contorted. He forced a pained smile. Oh, just stretching my legs. Why did you suddenly come back from New York? Is everything over there taken care of? Leo asked once they were in the car, his brow furrowed with concern. He'd seen Lester in the front seat and assumed that if he was back too, the crisis at Thornton Industries must be over. Isabelle shook her head. Not yet. I met with that lawyer Rex recommended yesterday, Mr. Chun. We went over a new plan to help my dad. I tried to visit him today, but the authorities said it's still an active investigation, so no visitors allowed. Don't worry, it's been a few days. You'll probably be able to see him soon, Leo said reassuringly. So, does that mean you don't have to go back to New York for a while? Isabelle bit her lip, then leaned her head gently on his shoulder. I have to go back tomorrow night, she said softly. I missed you. I wanted to see you. Being alone in New York. It's so tiring.